Warning, this podcast contains scenes of explicit nonsense and lore.
Previously on the Resident Evil podcast.
The fact that Resident Evil had a live action, intro and stuff, that was just what everyone did.
Yeah, I'd very much recommend that game if you want an old school Resident Evil experience.
The way the Nemesis does it, and we've spoken about it before, it's just this unrelenting creature that will do absolutely anything to kill you.
I was right the whole time. He had gotten the door wrong. Oh, God.
I'm just disappointed.
The Resident Evil Podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 98 of the Resident Evil Podcast, creeping up to our centenary like a mannequin up to Ethan. I'm Nick, better known as Neptune, not at Raccoon City Zoo for some reason. Let's see who's joining us today. When he runs off, it's reckless and stupid, it's the Batman.
Hello.
Someone is a traitor, it's Star's Tyrant.
Hello.
And it's all he could do to protect himself against those things. It's Romby.
Yeah.
Coming up on today's podcast, we head back to where all you millennials wish you were, Raccoon City in 1998, as we celebrate 20 years of Resident Evil Outbreak File 2. And we are picking up on the same idea that we ran earlier in the year with File 1, going through the scenarios two at a time and experiencing our journeys as we celebrate 20 years, so giving it our happy birthday treatment. As is tradition, we start with the first two, so today we're going to be looking at both Wild Things and Underbelly. So we're going to be looking at whether they hold up, as I said, what we've experienced, and whether it's an improvement, I think, over File 1. I think there's enough differences between the two that we can also dissect as well. We'll also be looking at the news before finishing off with another edition of Neptune's Biohazard quiz. So let's start with the news. So first bit of news, Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 are out on the GOG, or available on the GOG. GOG. On the GOG thing, Sean.
Good old games, Nick. Good
GOG.
old game store. GOG.
The GOG.
G-O-G.
God.
G-O-G.
GOG. Yeah, GOG. Yeah. I'm not a PC gamer. You may have guessed that. So that's available now, which has been really cool, just to see a lot of outpouring of love for both Resident Evil 2 and 3. Sean, you've downloaded, you've been playing, I think you've done a couple of cheeky streams as well. What's been your experience of these?
They are, well, first of all, let's get the praise out of the way. It is absolutely amazing that in the year of our Lord 2024, there is now a storefront. Okay, I know it's on PC. I know, we still haven't won the battle yet, because true victory will be when it's on, like consoles and Switch and all that. But as a first step, this is monumental, I think. Anyone who listens regularly will know my stance on remakes and things like that. I have a lot less issue with remakes as long as the consumer has choice. If the original versions are available, I can tolerate the existence of a remake a little bit easier. These are functional, I think is probably the best way to say it. They work out the box. Are they the best way to play these classic games? No, they're not. And that's what I do find a little bit frustrating, in that there are, certainly in Resident Evil 3's case, which has a lot of visual errors and a few bugs and problems that I genuinely don't think will get patched out, because the issues and the problems are like inherent to some of the code, and unless that's going to be basically overhauled like the way Gemini did for his classic Rebirth patches, I don't think you're going to see an equivalent performance. Now, the good thing is, most people probably aren't going to care. Like, if you're just a casual fan who's looking to dabble in these games for the first time, if you've never had the opportunity to play them before, I don't think it'll bother you too much if you're not playing it the absolute best they can be. For £8.99, you can pick up any one of the original trilogy. £20 if you want the bundle, and they work pretty much out the box with modern controllers. So in that, it's just so welcome. So it's taken too long for this to happen. And I'm not going to be fully satisfied until like everybody gets to join the party. I wouldn't even be really satisfied if it was just like the PSN versions of 2 and 3. I actually want like, you know, dedicated ports that can be on the Xbox and the Switch as well, because I think until everybody can join in, we're not quite there yet. But as a first step, it's excellent. It feels like something's healed.
What versions of RE2 and RE3 is it?
Right. So Resident Evil 2 is basically equivalent to if you've only played these games on the consoles, it is equivalent to the Dreamcast version. So
Right.
you have the nightmare modes in there, and the very cool gallery is in there, which has a lot of like 1.5 concept art. It unlocks as you play through the game, so you get more art and 3D models to view and things like that. It's got the fourth survivor on there. It's got it's got Tofu, and it's got the EX battle mode for everyone to peruse and play. It doesn't have any of the N64 things in there, so don't look for EX files, and don't look for the randomizer, and don't even look for the Hunter Corpse. It's not there. The Dreamcast version was released around the same sort of time as the PC port originally was, so these two versions are kind of in tandem as such.
So I was going to say, is the fourth survivor unlocked from the beginning, or do you have to unlock it?
On this version, it's unlocked from the beginning.
Oh, that's tempting then.
As well as Tofu. And Resident Evil 3 is again it's equivalent content to the Dreamcast version. Again, it has 2 extra costumes, one of which is shared with the Dreamcast version, and then it has its own sort of exclusive costume for Jill. The downside of this is the costumes are unlocked from the start. And the boutique doesn't exist as such. You don't get the boutique key. You can't go in it because there's no need to now. Everything else is in there. You've still got to unlock the epilogues. The mercenaries, I think, is unlocked from the start. Yeah, yep. You have to, on the GOG version, you have to select it before the game even boots. When you click launch game on GOG, it comes up with a little window before the game starts, and you can choose whether to play the main game or play Mercenaries from there, and then it will boot that. Other than that, it's content equivalent to the PS1 version or GameCube.
Yeah, so the Dreamcast versions were both based off the PC version, specifically because Dreamcast is a Windows CE base, so it was easy for them to cross-port PC functioning software and then made changes. And yeah, as Sean's alluded to, the costume thing became a screen select on 3, which... yeah, both versions had their own extras. So
I will just shout out Siri here from our Discord, because he is very frustrated by the fact that the GOG version shares the same sound quality as the Dreamcast version, which is a slightly lower quality in terms of like sound bitrate or whatever than the GameCube and the PS1 version. So it's a little bit more muffled and distorted in places.
That's the same as the PC version. It's because to do with the compression ratio on the files, which were all downsampled. And I think 2, I definitely think were WAV files. I can't remember for 3, but yeah, it was to fit them on the disc at the time when you used to get them on PC versions on disc and keep the file formatting size down. So because obviously it was 1 CD, not 2.
Well, hopefully they'll do well sales-wise. That will give, as you say, Capcom a bit of confidence that perhaps people will still pay money for these older games. And I think there is a market for it.
I think it's just maddening that in a Capcom that's really getting it together, certainly on the fighting game side of things, we're getting some of the most amazing like fighting game compilations now, like the Marvel vs. Capcom collection. We've got the fighting game collection 2 coming next year, which is going to have like the Capcom SNK titles on there. You know, one of their flagship series doesn't get this kind of treatment. I mean, you know, who wouldn't want to see like a Resident Evil Master Collection a la Metal Gear Solid with like, the RE trilogy on there, chuck Survivor on just for completion.
And you do your alternates, so you put director's cuts and non-director cut versions. And
there's a lot to criticize Konami for over the last few years, but they're actually starting to get some stuff together now. And like the Master Collection, it's, for all its flaws, is still quite a complete little package. It's very good.
The news comes from PlayStation itself. So Resident Evil 4 Remake and Resident Evil Village are getting PlayStation 5 Pro enhancements. So since we were last recording, the PlayStation 5 Pro, which had long been rumoured, is now coming out at an extortionate price. But what it does mean is that many games are getting little bits of improvements, and that includes two of our games in Village and RE4R. Whether that will be enough for people to be convinced to get a PlayStation 5 Pro remains to be seen. But I think we're talking here just better performance mode, so perhaps a bit more 4K 60, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically now you'll be able to, enable the hair strands option, for example, in 4R with no real penalty. And I mean, the village one is baffling to me because they've basically said they're going to aim for 120 FPS on village, and I just there's such overkill for a game like that. It absolutely does not need that kind of frame rate. It's fine if it supports it. It's not, I'm not adverse to it. And there's a few games I absolutely do like playing, like high frame rate mode in. But Village is hardly a high octane actioner that requires such twitch precision with button presses and things like that. It's at times a very slow skulking horror game. So it's just kind of comical, that one.
There's not many TVs that do 120 Hz either. Perhaps the monitor market's a little bit more forgiving, but if you're got your PS5,
a lot of monitors are starting to put out VRR modes, which includes support for other standard hertz in between those. So anything with those will run it fine. It's just one of those cases where obviously they're just pushing this AI-driven super sampling to upscale and all these things that allow high frame rates or features that would be performance modes now can start to combine the performance and quality modes together. You get and the good thing about these, I mean, we just look at what Capcom's done. They're not going to be charging for any of these upgrades. It'll be patch and free. So
I'd be interested to see them side by side. A lot of it, there's been a lot of discussion. This is nasty move by but by Sony, very expensive, blah blah. I'm waiting with bated breath. I mean, I don't think it will be enough for me to be convinced to buy a Pro, but I'm genuinely interested to see not just Resident Evil, but any other of the games that have been promised. Ratchet and Clank, I think, was Rift Apart's another one that's I think is getting a little bump. Just to see them side by side as best you can, or whether if it's purely going to be a frame rate issue, it's going to be hard to put across. I think.
No, the samples that are out there. Digital Foundry's done some stuff with footage from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And they've just done a Last of Us Part 2 one, which I haven't seen, but they had got given exclusive access by Naughty Dog to Pro material. I haven't read that one, but there was a pretty obvious difference when you actually could see them side by side. But I think the problem inherent is that you have to see them side by side. If you don't see them side by side, it's kind of hard to tell. And I think that was the reaction to a lot of those early tech demo stuff that went in with the announcement. Is like people would say, "Man, it doesn't look that different." And it's that thing, you won't see it unless you see it, unless you're really looking at the fine details or you have a comparison point. You probably aren't going to notice. Stars will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the amount of people that actually bought a PS4 Pro were like something like 10 to 15% or something of the overall sales.
I think it was just less than 10, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's something like that. So I think Sony's pretty much believing the fact that if they can sell 10% of their overall PS5s as Pros, they'll be happy. I mean, people are still playing on their PS4s at this point in the PS5 lifespan. I've got friends who still haven't even bought a PS5, and they're considering it. And then now, especially because the PS5 is actually starting to come down in price because of the Pro a little bit. I don't know if it's a temporary thing, but just this in the last couple of weeks here, the standard 5s have gone down over $100, $150 in some cases. So people are considering it, I think, more because of that. And ironically, the PS5 Pro will just end up probably bolstering the sales of the regular standard PS5s. But
I think from a personal point of view, they've been quite cagey on exactly how it's going to be enhanced, but they have said like there will be some PS VR2 improvements, and that I'll be very interested to see how that affects like Resident Evil 4R, because whilst that's a fine looking VR experience, there are some issues in there with some like image softness and some ghosting and things like that. So if we can eliminate that, that'll be excellent.
And that obviously also has the same knock-on effect of providing Village. The thing that probably more surprises me is that it doesn't include 7, because in theory we're still talking about RE engine, we're still talking about optimizations that they're probably across the board kind of engine optimizations, and so I wouldn't be surprised if later on 7 also got some additional support for Pro for VR especially, just to help improve that as well.
Final bit of news, we head back to the movies because there are rumours circulating around that a new Resident Evil live action movie is on its way that's got a little bit more traction as it has appeared in the kind of like production internal press reports of the new Resident Evil movie. There's been I'll say conflicting. I think the general feeling is that it's called Umbrella Chronicles. I have no idea. I mean, these are so old now.
No, that was the earlier one. Yeah, the Umbrella Chronicles one was earlier. But there has been another one. There's a discussion that the director of Barbarian,
That was it. Yes.
Zach Kreger, is potentially doing another live action project, which is always possible. Constantine Film owned the rights; they continue to own the rights. So they are obviously looking for any inroads to creating a new pathway to continue making these films and are successful. I mean, the Paul Anderson series made them $1 billion in box office, plus all the other sales I'm sure that they've made for licensing and streaming and DVD sales and all that over the years. So I'm sure that eventually we're going to have something confirmed, but beyond rumors, who knows? And this is par for the course. Ironically, this is the same as going through, if we go back to the era of which I covered, been covering for this upcoming George Romero documentary. When it was before George and after George, there was plenty of directors and plenty of false starts rumored. So it's par for the course too for the industry, and especially with something that's got a license that's, in this case, especially existed to have had some success. But so far, just the last thing's obviously been the Welcome to Raccoon City film and the Netflix series. So it's been a while already.
I don't know what confidence of another one. I mean, I think Welcome to Raccoon City gets a little bit of a hard time generally, and I think COVID had a lot to answer for it. But I don't think. No, sorry, I'll rephrase. I think these RE movies are overthought by directors and screenwriters. I think if they keep it really simple and just kind of like go, well, we'll try and do it like, I don't know, the first movie, the first game, and we'll, or just keep it to the core essences of what of the game is. I mean, I know it's difficult to replicate. I just think they overthink it. They're big and bolder.
You say that, but those two examples you've just mentioned, you could argue that fits the criteria for Paul Anderson's first film.
Yeah.
And what Welcome to Raccoon City was as well.
Well, the thing is, I would say, well, yeah, I don't mind Welcome to Raccoon City. I think it made a lot of issues, and it bit off more than it could chew. But I think a lot of the core was correct. The first Anderson movie, it's simple-ish, and yet you've still got a psychopathic AI computer that wanted to do whatever it did, and then we had double crossing, triple crossing, and and it was all a bit. That was a bit overkill to an extent.
I personally maintain that if you took the Netflix TV series and the Welcome to Raccoon City movie and you'd flipped those over,
right?
So the Welcome to Raccoon City movie was a series that had more time to breathe and expand and combine those elements from RE1 and RE2, and the narrative of the Netflix series was condensed down to a 2-hour movie, they both would have been much better for it.
Probably, that's probably
because the Netflix series had so much padding for all the things that were kind of good and interesting about it, and there were some interesting things in it. There was a lot of dumb and slow plotting stuff because it felt like a soap opera, and then the Welcome to Raccoon City thing almost didn't have enough time to breathe at moments and expand its characters or its situation or the circumstances, because I think from a visual perspective, both things got interesting things going on as well, so I can't really fault those. It's just that pace. I mean, this is the thing, we're in a new era of video game movies. We've had in video game media. We've had animated movies that have done really successfully. We look at something like Last of Us, which has taken plot near verbatim, scenes sometimes near verbatim, and then only added or embellished where needed for the medium it's in. And it's a very different kettle of fish. If Resident Evil was handled in the same way, would it be the same? It's kind of tough to say, because inherently we're talking about a storyline that was made almost 30 years ago, and narratively it's not as complex because the expectations of a narrative weren't that complex back then. And I don't mean to say that there's not depth to the Resident Evil franchise at all. Obviously that's not the case. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't the case. But what I mean is that The Last of Us was made in an era where you were trying to push this idea of cinematic boundaries. It wasn't the first cinematic game. It's definitely not going to be the last cinematic game, but it definitely had a plot that was based on a lot of dialogue and a lot of conversation and a lot of stuff happening. Whereas Resident Evil, the first one, not so much. And so you have to fill in those gaps. And so will any version of the original plot be accurate to the original? Probably not. But closer to that, maybe. Yeah, it's tough.
It is tough.
I just think it's a tarnished brand theatrically. I think if a new Resident Evil movie is announced, I think general audiences will just groan, and I think a large majority of the video game fan base have just totally lost any hope that they'll do a semi-decent adaptation, especially if it's handled by Constantine Film again.
Yeah.
zero, hope that we'll get anything decent. If they're going to do anything at all, I'd rather it be another crack at a TV series. Something like we had with that Dave or that Arklay or whatever it was called 5 years ago. Some sort of, I don't know, focus on a police detective or something. Something that in the build-up to the murders happening in Raccoon City, something like that. The TV series Netflix did a couple of years ago was just too far removed from the games. I don't. Nobody really got invested in it, I don't think. But yeah, if they're going to do anything, I'd rather it be a TV series than a film.
The worst thing for me is I finally watched Anderson's Monster Hunter.
Oh,
And while
right.
it's not a great movie at any levels, it actually narratively is a more interesting film than any of the Resident Evil ones, which is just crazy to think. Like it's stuff happens with consequences. It's relatively bottle contained. There's plenty of stupidity in it. Don't get me wrong, but it was like, oh wow, this is an actual plot. This actually stuff happens with consequences, and like it's not just forwarding one character, even if it is Mila Jovovich again. I was kind of surprised.
But did he write it?
Yes, yeah, and I'm not saying that because it's just like I can't. Maybe it's just it is the brand, and this is where I was going with. So I kind of agree with John. It's a bit tarnished. People look at it and they're either like, oh, that series of films with Mila Jovovich, which they have varying different opinions on. Oh, I like the first couple, or I like this one, but I didn't like these ones, or they were okay, they're a bit throwaway, or whatever. And then if anything else comes out, they either look at it as expecting to be more of the same or just disinterested entirely. And so, yeah, in that way, it's probably tarnished. Yeah, pretty tough call. Inevitably, something will be announced.
Yes, almost certainly.
It can't be a franchise that Constantine won't try again. And if they don't, then someone else will always have that opportunity to pick up the rights from Capcom. If they don't, it'll get sold to someone else, and that's what Constantine's probably trying to fight by eventually making something with it.
We'll just end the news by thanking some new patrons that have joined us. So a big thank you to Chris Chilcott, Cyber Pingu, Kiadi Mundi, Jen and Lee Madden. Thank you so much for your support. And if anyone is interested in our Patreon, you can head over to our Patreon page or follow the links on the community tab on our website.
Can I just do a quick shout out as well to
Yes.
CC, who is long-time friend of the podcast, who supported us right from the very beginning. She's had 1 or 2 health issues this year and is currently recovering from an operation. So I'm sure she'll be listening to this. So I just want to wish her a speedy recovery and let her know that we're all thinking about her.
Absolutely, absolutely. That does conclude our news. So we'll now head over to our main discussion. It's Happy Birthday Resident Evil Outbreak File 2, specifically a trip to the Wild Things Zoo and the Underground Station. Welcome one and all. We are now looking at Resident Evil Outbreak File 2. As is tradition with our Happy Birthday podcast, we've played through the games, well, at least these 2 scenarios, beginning to end, and oh, the fun we've had at the fair. And we're going to be sharing our experiences, tips and hints and tips, if there are any, and did we survive? I think that's the crucial question that we're going to be asking. But before we do, because it's the first one in Outbreak File 2, I thought it'd be quite good just to have a quick general chat on File 2 itself and how it improves or doesn't improve maybe on Outbreak File 1 and the differences between them, because from Europeans' point of view, there is a big difference because this one, if we so wish, we could actually play online. I'm not sure how many people did. The network adapter wasn't particularly widely available in PAL regions, so I'm not sure how many people did. My internet was certainly not good enough back then to be able to connect. But from a kind of offline point of view, I certainly noticed an improvement in the loading times. This is a lot more bearable as a game to actually actually play. And I think this is the first game you can run and shoot at the same time.
Yeah, move and shoot. Yep.
Move and shoot the first one. In Europe, this game came out after Resident Evil 4, but and that was weird because by the time Outbreak was kind of out, everyone was getting a bit tired, but it was showing its age, should we say? The tank controls and the pre-rendered backgrounds, well, semi-pre-rendered backgrounds, and Resident Evil 4, of course, blown everything out of the water. And then to kind of go back to this old style, Outbreak File 2 didn't sell well, hence it's quite rare, I believe, now on the second-hand market, and commands a bit of a price. Anyway, so I mean, generally, Batman, we'll start with you. What's your general thoughts of Outbreak File 2 at the time, and perhaps looking back now before we head into the scenarios?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I can't really think of any particular improvements over the first one. It's probably, out of all the games that exist in the series now, the Outbreak ones are probably the most niche for me. I haven't played a lot of them. I have completed them, but they're not games I tend to go back to. They're probably the only games in the series I've never ever learned off by heart. The one improvement in File 2 that I noticed this week was obviously when you pick your character, you can select who you want to come on your little adventure with you, whereas I think you couldn't do that in the first one. Graphically, it was pretty much the same, maybe a couple of performance improvements. I don't think the loading times were maybe quite as long. I don't know if that's true or not, but it certainly felt like the doors seemed to load a bit quicker with File 2 compared to File 1.
Yeah, definitely.
The scenarios themselves, nice varied mix. Yeah, just overall enjoyable. It's nice to go back to these Outbreak games after a few years, and it's nice to have an old school Resident Evil experience where you start, at the main gate of the zoo or the entrance to the subway, and you think, right, fuck, where do I go from here? Rather than starting in the Spencer Mansion again, where you can pretty much go through the game blindfolded because you've done it that many times.
Yes, I agree.
But yeah, enjoyable experience. I very much enjoyed my adventures in Wild Things and Underbelly this last week.
Romby, what about you? How do you feel? I mean, back in Deer, what did you find that the perception of File 2 at the time?
I mean, it was perception is pretty much as you described it. I don't think particularly many people were enthused about it even when it was coming out in the United States, because their experiences with the first Outbreak had not been particularly great, and of course in PAL territories where there's no online, people were less enthused. I had a network adapter and I had the game, and because I had the internet connection that probably would have run it. The problem was being that I was so far removed from the servers, being halfway around the world, I couldn't ever get a proper game running. So I tried. If I'd been in Europe, maybe. If I'd been in the UK, maybe. But being in New Zealand at the time with a network adapter and a copy of the game, I couldn't get it working. So I never had the opportunity to play it online, even though I had the ability to. And all other concepts. I remember as well, just as you said, was going to bring up if you hadn't, that the fact the PAL version came out after Resident Evil 4, it kind of got a little bit, ignored, I think, on that perspective as well. I remember seeing the material of it at the time as well, and just being like, oh, cool, it's more of the same, and if they make some technical improvements. And I was like, the AI definitely needs to be slightly more responsive, which I feel like it might be as well. Like, they've tweaked a little bit. It's not perfect still. But that there's still this opportunity where things like you're not constantly having AI refuse to give you stuff when you're playing it in that mode as much as before. I'll let you guys tell me if that was still the case for you guys. But yeah, generally, it's always had a particular look, which I've always liked. Both of the Outbreak games, there's a particular visual style to them that is a very unique, and I kind of like for what they are. And yeah, it's that sort of thing that holds up more than anything than my memory of the games at the time and still now. So yeah,
I was really impressed with the graphics, more so in Underbelly than perhaps Wild Things. I think Oscar the elephant still looks a little bit weird, but the Underground I found to be particularly impressive. There were some shots there, and I thought it looked good. And Sean, you'll be delighted to know that not only did I play in 4x3, I also played on 60 hertz.
Oh my god!
I know. So I played as intended on the screen, and whether that made any difference, we'll find out later.
I just want to just mention to our audience that usually in the run-up to preparing a podcast, we often discuss experiences and things like that. How we're getting on and whatnot. Nick has refused to tell us exactly what has happened on on his playthroughs this week, so we are learning it literally as blind as you are listening now today, which means they're going to be a corker, aren't they, ladies and gentlemen?
I don't know. I don't want to hype it up. It was tense. I think it's probably the best term I could describe. But Sean, what about you? You obviously you have the benefit of you still play these games online and offline as intended. I'm intrigued to think generally for you. Do you find File 2 scenarios better than File 1? I mean, having played obviously all of File 1 recently and File 2. I know what's coming up with File 2. I'm starting to think File 1 scenarios are better, but I prefer the File 2 is a little bit more user friendly.
Well, you say that. I actually would disagree.
Okay.
I think File 2 is a bit of a step down for me from the first game. The first game is very special to me. I never really did truly gel with File 2 as well. And a lot of that is because I think whilst the new scenarios are certainly interesting and varied, nearly every single one is spoiled by some form of mechanic or factor that I think certainly offline really bogs them down. It's less of an issue online because you obviously have three hopefully competent players that you can support each other very well, but certainly offline when you're the essentially the lone wolf getting everybody else through it, it's just infuriating, whether it's like a stalker enemy and an abundance of poison in Wild Things, bleed mechanics or poison in Underbelly, a pursuer and even more poison in Flashback, the fucking nerve gas canister things in Desperate Times, which completely ruins the flow of that scenario. I think each one is pulled down in some way, which makes the offline experience at times utterly miserable, and it just a point of frustration. I don't enjoy them as much. I don't find it as fun. Again, this is purely speaking of the offline experience. The online experience is great. I have to admit to our audience, I always like to try and push myself and give myself a challenge when we do these happy birthday podcasts and whatnot. But I played these ones on easy. I couldn't face the frustration. I had limited time this week to get them played before recording tonight, and I just did not feel like smashing my skull into a wall trying to get it done. And so I cheapened out, and as we'll get into it, with some amount of regret in places doing it, but it is what it is.
Well, let's get to it then. Let's start off with the trip to Raccoon City Zoo with Wild Things. So, as is customary, before we get into the specifics of it, let's delve into the timeline chat, just for people who want to know where this takes place, because as everyone knows, the Outbreak scenarios are all over the place chronologically. So we hand over to our tame lore driver, which is Batman here. We are early on in the Outbreak. Clues are it being such as the evacuation notice still happening, and I think the helicopter, and I think there's reference in that to that as well. But where are we placing it time-wise?
There's no dated files in this scenario, but it's pretty much accepted that it's the day after Outbreak and Hellfire, which would put it on September 24th. It's still early on in the Outbreak, as you've said. This is evident with certain comments the characters make as they're running around. I think Cindy says, what's going on in the city? Is the rest of Raccoon City like this? And there's obviously rescue helicopters still going, and the epilogue mentions the police and National Guard are still trying to get everything under control. So yeah, this is fairly early on. I think it's accepted that it's the evening of September 24th.
Do we still buy the kind of theory that it's four of them? Only 4 people, and then another 4 somewhere else?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you want to get really nickety with the canon, you could say this is one of the canonical characters would be Cindy, simply because she shows up in the intro.
Absolutely.
But other than that, I don't think it particularly matters who's there. But yeah, probably 4 survivors went to the zoo and 4 survivors went elsewhere.
To the citizens of Raccoon City. That looks like the city zoo's rear gate. If a rescue team's on the way, I'd better hurry. I have kind of a bad feeling about this, but it looks like I should check it out.
So who did everyone pick to play as?
I went with Kevin again.
Kevin, yeah.
And I played on normal mode. I was feeling brave.
And I was Alyssa.
Of course. I was Yoko. This is my standard. And, good old Yoko. I don't know how anyone does it with four item boxes. I think I say this on every one we do. I just cannot do it with 4 item slots. I don't know how. Anyway. Romby, what about you?
Cindy for mine.
You are Cindy. Okay, so that's cool. The game, if you like, starts off and we get a relatively cool introduction. Now, I have to say from the outset, the zoo was one of my least favourite places to visit, I would have thought. You know, it's not the place you want to go when there's a zombie outbreak. And it was all part of this idea that, oh my God, why on earth would we to go there? And there's a tease at the beginning, isn't it? You see there's lots of people eating carcasses. You've got the dead zombie gorilla, and you're thinking, oh, you know, this is gonna be hell. I think that Wild Things is probably a good case of the PS2 limitations. I think if there was a remake of Outbreak File 2 and they redid Wild Things, I think it would be completely different. I think something like Underbelly, even like the Outbreak or Hellfire, they work quite well because you're kind of sneaking around a relatively small area in traditional style. This zoo should be literal hell on earth, and you are limited, if you like, by one big elephant, a couple of lions, some hyenas, and a crocodile. That's kind of it, and obviously zombies, you know, and some hornbills and God knows what. No one in their right mind would go into a zoo. It would be, as I said, hell on earth. And so I think I think it should have been better than what it was, but I don't think it could have been because of the PS2's graphical capabilities.
Yeah, but if you only had 50 minutes to get to the evacuation helicopter and the quickest way was through the zoo, would you go through the zoo?
Oh yeah, you probably would. But all I'm saying, I think in terms of like enemy differences and you know what would be there. You know, I remember when they announced that we're going to the zoo. I thought, flippin' heck. You know, there could have been a lot more. That's all I'm saying. But that's fine. That was just a broader point about what it was. So we have to discuss what we did get. So I was Yoko. I picked Kevin, Mark as my helpers. I thought I could do with Kevin's gun right off the bat. Just as a question, I put this in my notes. Did you have a character that just did not move?
Yeah, it's Cindy, because she's the NPC character, if you will. She just stands by the entrance gate.
Okay, so I thought I was glitching.
No, she waits for you to go and get the key from the elephant restaurant.
Oh right, okay, fine.
She goes in, and then she almost dies almost straight away.
Yeah.
Oscar.
Okay, that's fine. I won't. I thought I was glitching, and then I don't know if this happened. Yoko's not the fastest, but she should be outrunning zombies. Did you have a speedy zombie who ran at you like he was bloody Usain Bolt? He was he belted out, and he would chase me, only me. He was looking around at me. No one else. Everyone was running next to him, and he's going, no, I want a bit of Yoko. And he was faster than me.
That's the limitation of these extra item slots, Nick, come at a price. You need to learn this.
So that wasn't a glitch either. That was just.
I know there's a very low percentage that a zombie will. I think it's just affectionately called by the fans as turbo. Resident Evil 3 used to have it. Or still, you know, the original Resident Evil 3 has it, where every now and then there's a random chance one will turbo and go like twice as fast as they usually go.
These are the only zombies in the entire scenario, aren't they? The ones outside the elephant restaurant.
Oh, yeah, they are actually. Yeah, I didn't consider that. Oh no, there's a couple. Is there a couple in the main? No, there isn't. Is there a couple in the main building?
No, I don't think there's any zombies in the actual zoo.
Oh.
They'll follow you into the restaurant, and there's a couple in the alleyway out the back. But once you get actually into the zoo, you don't see any more zombies.
So, needless to say, my experience was nearly over in the first 2 minutes. because you can't pause the bloody game and actually go, oh, I had no health. And I was like running around going, oh my god, I just could not get away from this bastard zombie. And I was like, this has not started well, ladies and gentlemen. And I was being picked on by what you've now described as Turbo Zombie. And so you're saying that doesn't happen if I played it again, Turbo wouldn't necessarily appear there?
No.
So I was just
a random chance.
So I was just brutally unlucky to face that.
Yeah, if you like, yeah. Online it wouldn't be an issue because someone would just dispatch it. This is where AI teammates really don't help.
No, Kevin was off doing something else.
Yeah, if you've got a Yoko online, then your Kevins and your Marks or your Davids will do their best to try and protect her because she's like your point person in terms of like items and healing gear. So it's imperative you keep your Yokos and your Cindy's alive if you've got them. So your AI teammates let you down there.
They did. It was a brutal start, and I think I was on danger before I got into the Elephant Cafe. But there we go. We crawled in, and that was obviously the first part. To what you're trying to do is find the bolt cutters, ladies and gentlemen. How exciting! What is now a staple of the Resident Evil series begins in Outbreak File 2.
I didn't get them, Nick.
You didn't get bolt cutters?
No.
No, I didn't get the bolt cutters either.
There's another way, Nicholas.
I got bolt cutters. They're blue. It was, without ruining it, it was going to be a quiz question because they are different color to the normal RE bolt cutters.
All right. Well, obviously having lockpicks.
Yes.
I looked at the doorway to the back alley, went straight there, then lockpicked the back entrance into the restaurant, read the file straight away, which tells you that the padlock combination is literally carved underneath the padlock, and then ran straight back to the gates, and the game gives you a prompt whether you just want to put the code in. You don't even have to punch the code in, it'll just do it for you. And then the gates unlock, and you go in.
Wow. And you can only do that if you've got Alyssa.
No, if you all you need to do is read that file. It's at the back of the restaurant. But if you're Alyssa, you can obviously go in through the back entrance.
Oh, I see. Right.
Lockpick the doors.
The cash register at the back. The diary's on there.
So I don't even think I've ever done the bolt cutters way. So I'll have to watch that.
Well, it's not exciting, but it's just you just got to go into the kitchen. It reminded me a little, kind of like go back on yourself.
And it's in the you have to go through the kitchen to the front inside the counter, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I think poor Kevin got a hamstring injury kicking that door literally about 50 times before it opened.
That's true. I wasted so much ammo just to shoot the door down because I'd forgotten how to actually shoulder barge.
Yeah, shoulder barge. Yeah.
Or whatever it was. So I wasted half my ammo just shooting down doors.
Nick mode strikes again.
Oh.
Well, as I said, it was a traumatic opening just to get some bloody bolt cutters. But then I was like, right, here we go. So we now do the bolt cutters, and then you enter into the zoo, and then of course Zombie Elephant Titan himself, or Oscar, as he is also affectionately known, turns up in a rather interesting FMV sequence. So Titan is a funny old one. I'd forgotten how fast he was, and he makes an interesting different type. I mean, you can run. Yoko again. I feel I was struggling a little bit because he will kind of like rampage through you as you kind of run across the promenade concourse.
As Sean alluded to, Nick, you are slightly slower for the benefit of having extra storage.
Yes, but I was led to believe by Stars Tyrant, if I had this in 60 Hz, this would not be the case.
How dare you? How dare you
Doesn't make
misquote
the
me?
characters move faster in general in relation to other characters. It's just a smoother gameplay experience.
The game speed is faster, but that also applies to your zombies and your elephants as well, Nicholas. You don't gain
I
an
did not
unfair
know that.
advantage.
Well, I
Well,
thought
this
I
will explain
might.
why I didn't say anything all week.
I thought
Throwing
I
his
will. I will
toys.
cruise through this because I had issues with File 1 going at 50 hertz, and I thought, well, no, I'm gonna 60 hertz this bad boy, and I was still struggling with Mr.
It
Titan.
doesn't mean our friends across the ponds have been having much easier versions of games because their player characters move faster than the rest of the game.
It just means everything moves faster in relation to the frame rate.
Oh god, I'm
Oh.
off to bed.
Yeah, I'm out.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Okay, let's bring it back to normality. So Titan, they're running concourse, and your first kind of point of call, you're trying to look for the building, the kind of big building, and you encounter some hyenas.
The office.
Yes, where you go in the office. Yeah. Before you get there, you do encounter the hyenas. I don't think they are any different to the normal zombie dogs. They didn't, apart from being bigger.
Faster, I think.
Do you think a bit faster? I don't know. Honestly, I've lost all perception of speed now, so I can't comment on what's faster and what's slow anymore. So I'll take your word on that.
Congratulations, you've just taken your first step into a larger world.
Hyenas I didn't find too difficult. I mean, as I was unsurprisingly playing on easy, so there wasn't that many. It's 2, I think, outside the office.
They respawn, which is a big bugbear for me on this scenario. You know, considering how precious ammo is, I tend to just sort of run around most enemies in this scenario if I can. But your first objective is to get to the office and get the alligator key.
Yes, and I was particularly pleased because I'm sure it was picked up at the time, but I mean, there's the whole kind of office area. I felt it was very much a homage to Dino Crisis. I don't know if anyone else thought of that. The kind of T-Rex kind of coming through the windows, and with Oscar kind of having a go. I think the first time you do it, you don't quite know where he's going to come. It doesn't take long to work out where you're going to be safe, where you're not going to be safe. But it was a nice touch. I think it added a little bit of tension to what you thought was going to be a relatively safe area from him.
Yeah, if you run round fast enough, you get a glimpse of him pulling an unfortunate employee through the window.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, there's like an injured zoo employee stood there, and he comes smashing through the window and pulls him out. When you hear him, you have to sort of run round the corner so it changes the camera angle quickly, otherwise you'll miss it.
Oh, that's quite a nice little touch. So and I assume no one did get dragged out. It was fine.
No, it's instant death, isn't it, if you do?
I think it possibly is, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think it. Yeah, it doesn't throw you back into the. No, it can't actually. No, it doesn't throw you back into the concourse. No. So you can look through a couple of rooms, and you are introduced to the medal, the medal room, with a number on it, and you can insert medals into it to have items. Now, from my point of view, when I was looking at it, you've got a red corner and a blue corner, and I thought this was important because I remembered that you need to escape the zoo with a red and a blue emblem. I will leave that there for now. That was. That was my thinking. So I had some. I was checking the number on
Were you
it.
on
I
easy
think
mode? Remind me.
I was on easy mode. Yes.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
So I had. I think it was 4. I needed 4 medals. So I thought, there we go. I need to find 4 medals, and that was my That was my plan.
Well, that was interesting because I was on normal mode and I needed 2.
It's 2 initially to get the first item.
Yeah.
And
right.
It changes to 4, I think, or it's even more on harder difficulties.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. So that was my kind of thought. I thought that's what that was the initiative. That was the goal to get that and proceed. But alas, that was turned out to be incorrect. But we'll come back to that later. Do not worry. The idea being you've got to go find the. Do you need to find the elephant key? I thought you.
So you find the elephant key is in the office.
On the table, isn't it?
Yeah, and then you can obviously use that to unlock the North Concourse door, which leads to the elephant stage.
Yeah, the East Concourse. Yeah, the East one. Yeah.
Yeah, and then from there you climb up the ladder and then go around the back to the terrarium dome.
Yeah, so you end up to the elephant stage, which is quite a cool little area. And you are you can go inside and then you can go up the ladder into the upstairs office. But you I can't remember. It is. I think it is locked. Actually, it is locked, isn't it? But you can unlock it, which is worthwhile doing by the exit, the other exit. So you don't have to go all the way back round. It's worth unlocking that. Before we talk about the music stage, this is where you are first introduced to the bloody hornbills. And
fuck those hornbills to death.
Oh my days! I mean,
no.
I mean, crows have been an annoyance, a general annoyance in Resident Evil since the first game. What is it about the hornbills that make them?
No.
But they are freaking annoying.
No. Did you have a gun?
Yes.
Did you press L1 to auto aim and shoot them out the sky instantly?
R1.
L1.
L1.
Press and hold R1 to aim. Then
Right.
L1 auto aim so you can move and shoot, and it will hit scan to them. You will just shoot them straight out of the sky once you press fire.
Oh, well, there you go. Who says we don't provide useful information on our
Did you not know this? Moving and shooting.
No.
Why use your weapon?
Well, because there's so many of. I just need to run. I want to try and run, but you can get stun lock, and it's the biggest problem with Outbreak. If you get too hurt, it's really annoying. You can't just get up and crawling around like a lost chicken, and you just want to. Oh no! Honestly, they drive me up the wall.
Okay, well, Nick, top tip then for the rest of the scenarios: use the L1 auto aim so you can move and shoot, and it will always automatically aim anything that's flying. So, like if you've got crows coming up, it will just shoot them straight out of the sky.
They do seem more difficult than crows.
I think they take 2 bullets. Yeah,
is that it? Anyway. In that room upstairs, you are getting the BMG tape, and if you wait long enough, old Oscar turns up, and this is basically his little home, isn't it, where he does his little stage show. And if you wait long enough, he'll come in. You're quite safe in that upstairs office, but you can play his music and entice him in. So I was very much of the opinion, because long-term listeners of the podcast will know that I think last time I did this, I killed the lion with a knife. So the lion with the knife. So I thought, no, I'm gonna do Oscar this time. So I decided not to capture him, if you like. So I thought I'd let him carry on running around, because my understanding at the time when I was playing through was that in order to get the lion ending, you had to capture Oscar in there. So he wasn't in there. I thought, right, that's what I've got to do. So I'm not going to capture him. I'm just going to carry on with the game. So I kept the BMG tape, because you can use that at the very end to use it, in the battle on the main. I think it's main plaza. I can't remember what it's called. Yeah, you can use it to entice him in to different parts and shoot. So I thought that's fun.
You can't you can't capture him that early anyway, because you need to restore the power. Because you can't close the gate because the power's down.
On easy, you don't need to do that.
Oh right, apologies.
Where'd you do it? I mean, I've never done it.
On normal mode, the power's down, so you can't use any of the. I think you restore power, and it powers up like 5 different things, like the spotlights for the animal stage and the crane that you have to lift up in the animal show house.
Right.
So in normal mode, when you get to the pathway outside the observation deck, there is a file near the guidepost there which has the combination code which you need to use in the main office to restore the power. And only when you've done that can you play the music and trap Oscar in the elephant stage.
Quite a lot of backtracking then, if you...
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a nice open area. That's what I like about Wild Things. I mean, obviously it has to be when you've got an elephant stalker enemy, but, nice wide environments and, nice open areas, which is pretty rare for, your sort of first generation Resident Evil games.
This is one of the areas where I explained, having some regret earlier. I really wish I hadn't played this on easy, because I did not realise how truncated the experience is on easy. They cut out nearly all the puzzles, to the point where all you really need to do on easy is grab the red emblem plate, because the other one's already in on easy. So you just go to the main, you grab it as quick as you can, go to the main plaza, find the boss, and then finish the scenario. I think I clocked it in about, 15 minutes? Something like that. So disappointed by it. And I had hoped to replay it on normal before the recording today, but I had not had the chance to get around to doing it. So it's something I'm going to explore again soon, because I feel like I did kind of cheat the scenario a little bit here, and it was all the more unsatisfying for it.
Yeah, that's another thing as well. You can't push the buttons in the terrarium dome to get the first plate without restoring the power first. So you've basically got to do a full loop of the zoo
Before I see.
Or you can start doing any of that.
What was your plan, Rob?
Well, I was playing on easy, so I didn't have to do the power thing either. So I pretty much had just done exactly what you've done, which is gone to play the tape and trap the elephant in there. Though obviously you didn't in this case. But yeah, I thought it was a much easier task than having him running around all over the place, climbing fences and looking like an idiot.
But you mentioned we once you've kind of exited that area, you can then go into the terranium, which is another very, very annoying because of the bugs. I mean, you instantly make a beeline up the stairs, and to push off the crate to the so you can destroy the the big plant, the Rafflesia. The big plant. We'll say the big red plant. I assume that helps with the amount of bugs. You know, I've never actually stayed long enough not to see what it's like without that.
Yeah, I think when you come back in subsequently, there's less bugs. Because when I went in there, I ran up the stairs, and George was one of my NPC characters, and he went straight to the Rafflesia and was getting mauled by the bugs. You could just hear him off camera going, "Oh bloody hell! Oh bloody hell!" But yeah, when you push them off, it's definitely a lot safer the next time you come through. There's still a few that can get you, but certainly not as many.
It's one of my most loathed areas in the entire series.
Yeah,
because to my knowledge, there is actually no way to getting hit in there. It is like, you know, they will always get you, and many times always poison you, and it's just when you have to backtrack. It wasn't so bad on this particular run because I only made one trip through it, but when you've got to backtrack and you keep getting poisoned every single time, it's just this is one of those areas where what I said at the beginning of the episode was like a factor just making this a much more miserable and less fun experience than the first game was.
I think from my point of view, I've forgotten exactly what I'm sure I've played it before where I've had to do the puzzle, but I've got in easy mode, you don't need to do the puzzle. It's already kind of done for you because that's where I did. You can hit all the buttons to restore to do all that, but I didn't. You just run through it really.
Yeah.
But you just hope and pray. I don't mind getting hit. A bit like Sherry, isn't it? Going through the tunnel in RE2. A lot of times you get hit. It's just the poison. It's just not. It's just brutal.
It's particularly annoying when you've got enemies that are, you know, potentially infinite with the respawning.
Yeah.
Which means poison is potentially, you know, an infinite amount of times, but then you have a very finite resource in blue herbs. And if you've been particularly clumsy or unlucky, then you can actually run out. And in Outbreak, poison doesn't clear itself. So you've got it for the rest of the scenario then.
And the first aid spray don't help.
No, you need George. Then start mixing some antidotes, because if George obviously he combines the green herb, is it, with his medical kit, he can actually give you something to remove poison.
Oh, that's handy. You're about halfway through now, if not that. If you're doing it, you know, it's not short. So you then exit the terranium, and you're at the lakeside area where you've got Nor, who's the crocodile.
Alligator.
Sorry, John.
Alligator.
He's an app. Thank you. Yeah.
Right. All right. It's just
What a name, though. What a name, Gnor.
Gnor. I don't know where these names came from. Matt, was it Stalker? And we've got them on the website because they've always been known as it. But I think Stalker, Titan, and Nor. I have a funny feeling they're from old Prima strategy guides, more so than anything Resident Evil's ever put out.
They on the official Resident Evil website for File 2?
You know what? I don't know. I'd have to check because it's
the same website that had Gaiden as part of the timeline.
Let me peruse the Grand Bible, the Biohazard File 2 Grand Bible book.
Have you got it? Oh, there we go. One
second.
Did you dispatch the alligators? Because I wasn't brave enough to chance going through the water, and they can instantly kill you.
No, I didn't. I walked it. I stood at the edge, and I watched them as best I could within the camera angles that our Lord Capcom gave to us, and I chanced it, and I did okay. Yeah, I didn't get hit. What I will say is when I came back, because you'll know why shortly, I did see Kevin be brutally eaten whole. And I mourned his death. It's kind of got a similar animation to the Hunter Gammas. It almost like he flicked him up, and I was looking at it with absolute horror. It kind of flipped him up and then just swallowed him whole. I was like, "Oh, Kevin, no!" So I had a death there, and that was it. And I don't think the body isn't there afterwards. It's totally gone, so you can't even get anything off him. So poor old Kevin. So I was down to what that wasn't at the first time. It was when I came back. But yeah, I lost old Kev though. It was quite an amusing death, if not brutal. Then you kind of exit. Once you're out, you get to the lakeside area, and then you get to the path that John mentioned in front of the observation deck, and you can go and have a look around there.
I didn't even get there because I went through the little like ventilation hole slip thing, which takes you into the main plaza.
Yes, yeah, no, this is true, and because there's respawning hyenas there. I'd forgotten how much, where I needed to go, and then at the end of that corridor, that's where the alligator key is, where the exit. That I think it's locked by the alligator key, and so I was kind of I was going back and forth, and I was getting between the hyenas and the hornbills. It was all going a little bit wrong, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And then I saw the gap, as you say, and you kind of exit in again on easy mode. It's just a little bit of this whole thing becomes a little bit pointless. Once you have made it past the lake, you're done.
Yeah.
Really.
On easy. Yeah, and that's exactly what I did. Because I went in and thought, what I'll do is I'll just get rid of this red plate now, because obviously we get it from the guy who falls from the gates at the Elephant House.
You had, I hadn't.
Yeah, so I grabbed. So I'd already had it in my inventory, and I thought, while I'm here, I'll get rid of it and then start my quest to try and find the blue one. So imagine my surprise when I saw the blue one was in there already. And I thought, well, now there's no need to go back. I'm done. I've got a shotgun. I've got a pistol. I may as well just go straight on to do the boss. And so this is kind of where my story ends with Wild Things, really, because I just sort of cashed out here and went and did the boss.
Well,
same here.
Yeah. Oh, really? You did the same as well?
Well, because I was on easy, and then it was the read. That's it. That's the go. There's still some supplies in the area, so if you should put sort of extra anything that you can pick up or health or anything like that, there's stuff in the area, and then after that you can go straight through in the boss fight.
There's also the lioness in this part of the game, and that made me jump. I was like, oh crap! The lionesses aren't that difficult in easy mode. I didn't actually have any problems with them.
No, they knock you down a lot, but they don't really do a lot of damage.
No. And then, like you, I explored the area and then realised I needed the red plate. So I thought, oh shit, it's back in the office, because that's where the red light is with all the medals. So I went off on my own little side mission to find some more medals, because I didn't have enough, which led me to go down to parts of the game that in easy mode you do not need to go down to, which is the kind of stage area.
Nope.
And the boarding house. And so I was kind of having a look around there, but then there is a medal at the stage, which I hastily picked up before any lion turned up, and then kind of came back. So I had enough. I think I was only missing one. I had 3 or whatever it was. So I was like, okay, I was pretty confident now that I was on the way. So I went back. Took the last medal back through the observation deck, back through Nor, missed the alligator again, back through the terranium, back through avoid more hornbills, back into the elephant stage. Wasted a lot of yeah, that was fine. And then back to the office, and then I got back into it. I was like, oh, at last. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, red light comes on. I thought, excellent, here we go. Here it is. Walked over. Will you take the rifle ammo? Shit. I was like, where's what? I didn't understand. I was like, why is it not here? There's the blue one there. There's a red one here, and I was like, oh. And then I was lost emotionally at this point. I was like, what have I done? So the only thing I could think of at that point was to actually go and trap Oscar, which I did. So I went back, trapped him, switched on, put him in, gate closed, and then as you say, Sean, the chappie drops the red plate. But I was disappointed because I wanted to fight Oscar, and now I genuinely have no idea. Because I then got the red. I'll speed through my playthrough. Got the red plate, went back through the terranium, went through the lakeside, saw Kevin's brutal death, crawled back through the front plaza, put in the plate. And then, like you, I then went into the front gate area, expecting... Well, I don't know what I was expecting at this point. I wanted to fight Titan, the elephant, and I was a little bit disappointed I was greeted with Max.
Yeah.
I was, because I had so many issues fighting him the first, 20-odd years ago. or whatever it was. It wasn't 20 years ago, so when we recorded Outbreak File 2 originally, or whatever that was. I was like, we'll get to the boss encounters, but that was my general playthrough. So I'm disappointed, and I don't actually know off the top of my head how to trigger fighting Oscar. But Batman, what about you? What was your end game? Because I think you mentioned you did go to the other areas, the stage and the boarding house.
You have to, because when you go through the path to the observation deck, you can't take the shortcut onto the front plaza because there is a food cart on the other side blocking it. So you can only access it by going through the animal show house and moving that cart out of the way, so it becomes a shortcut.
So once you've come out of the lakeside area, you're in the observation deck. You then have to go all the way back to the north concourse.
Yeah. So what I did was, because I didn't know my way around it off by heart, so I was sort of doing it blind. But you go up to the observation deck and you get the hunting rifle.
Yes.
And the alligator key was in there for me. Didn't actually appear, but if you play it on harder difficulties, I think there's an extra NPC up there called Austin, who's a hunter. And that was another thing I like about this scenario. There's a few NPC survivors from the zoo you can actually speak to. I think it's Patrick in the main office, Lloyd in the elephant stage, and Austin in the observation deck. And if you speak to them in a certain order and then go back to the other characters and let them know, that the friends are still alive, they'll give you like shotgun shells and first aid sprays and stuff, which I think is a nice touch.
Oh.
But anyway,
that's interesting.
I got the rifle, and then I used the alligator key to unlock the door at the far end to get back onto the concourse. And then you have to go back to the main office to turn the power on.
Right, I see. Right, yeah.
Then I went back to the elephant stage and trapped Oscar, and with the power on, I could press the buttons in the terrarium dome, which gave me the first emblem that I needed. And then you go back to the office and use your raccoon medals on the statue and move the statue, which gives me the lion key, which meant I could access the service road and get into the animal show house. And then I got onto the front plaza, moved the cart so I could use that shortcut to get back to the observation deck if I needed to. Put the first emblem in place, and then I could not remember for the life of me where the second one was. So I had it in my head that I must need to get 5 more raccoon medals.
Oh,
a bit like yourself, yeah. And it was only really by pure luck that when I was going back through the animal storehouse, the camera angle changed and I saw the crane, because it's not massively obvious when you go through it the first time round. And you use the crane to lift up some pallets, and the second emblem is under there. And obviously you've got to avoid the lioness to get it. But I had quite an interesting glitch, because when I put the second emblem in place, I got the cutscene of the shutters opening out onto the street, but whenever I tried to go through it, it said the shutters were down and I couldn't go any further. So I actually had to reload it from a previous save.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it worked fine the second time. Because I trapped Oscar without using the tape, I was unsure what I needed the tape for. I didn't realise you could use it again at the end. And I wasn't sure that if you trapped Oscar, he stayed in there permanently, or if he actually broke out after, if you leave him in there for too long, whether he eventually breaks out. I couldn't remember. He was still trapped.
Does, isn't he?
Yeah, but he was still trapped when I got through onto the front plaza. So obviously I knew the lion was coming, and for some reason I had recollections this boss was ridiculously hard, but he was really easy. He just sort of prowls the roof, and whenever he jumps down, you just shoot him and he jumps back up again. I think I killed him without even being hit.
So do we all have the lion?
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm so disappointed. How do we get Oscar then?
He just has to be roaming free, I think, which will happen after a certain amount of time. He will break free.
Yeah.
Yeah, but John went via Timbuktu, and he was still there.
Not quite late though, didn't he?
Yeah, I assume. Yeah, I lock him up a lot later than you because I have to switch the power on. But I assume, if you wait a certain amount of time, he will break out eventually, and that probably triggers his boss fight.
I like your version, John. You've got like a whole new game.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
This
is why I was so disappointed.
Yeah, that's one of the really positive things about Outbreak. If you do try the harder difficulties, there's extra areas, the items are swapped around, there's extra items in some cases, and extra NPCs as well, weirdly.
Yeah,
it's definitely worth, trying all that. I was thinking to myself, actually, when I was playing through it today, I fancy going back to both Outbreak games and and trying every single difficulty mode, just seeing how expensive the changes are.
If you're playing competently online, it must be very rewarding as well to be able to.
Oh, there's nothing better.
Yeah.
It's such great games.
So Max, John, you said you found him pretty easy jumping down. I was petrified of Max because of my last experience. Literally, I think when I last played it, I was down to like danger, barely walking with a knife. That was it. And it's the first and only time I've killed a boss with a knife outside of Stinger, because that's a bit of a glitch in RE0 where you can kill him really easy with a knife. So I was very apprehensive about Stalker, and I was like, oh no, not again. But armed with, I think I just had a shot. I can't remember what I had. It was shotgun and just the handgun. I think I had about 104 ammo for the handgun, and it did have a shotgun. I can't remember. I don't think it must have done. I didn't find it difficult at all. I had plenty of health, and it's how I like to go into boss fights. I like to have all the health in Yoko's other outfit, and then just weapons and ammo in the main full bulk. And I was pleasantly pleased with myself that not only was it done first time, that I avoided a lot of the usual pitfalls that I encompass with these boss fights, and I didn't have any problems at all.
No, I must say I was the same. I was armed to the teeth, to be honest. I think between me and the NPCs, everyone had a pistol. We had 2 shotguns, and although the NPCs I selected for this were George and Kevin, and for some reason George ended up with a shotgun and shotgun shells, but just wouldn't reload it. So in the end, I had to retrieve it from him during the fight and load it up, and then as soon as I got it, it was only about 3 or 4 more shots, and then it was dead.
Rob, same. How was your encounter?
Yeah, pretty straightforward. Everyone has too much ammo and too much guns and easy. I think it's pretty much summary of exactly as Sean was just saying. It's just that there's an abundance.
Well, there we go. That concludes our happy birthday playthrough of the zoo and wild things. I think we're all kind of on the same page with this. I remember it being a lot harder than it was, but then I was on easy mode, so I do wonder if a normal playthrough is worth it, just to experience the other areas.
Just out of interest, John, because you were the only one who played it on normal then, like how many times did you get poisoned, or were you quite lucky on this run?
I just got poisoned the once, but I was quite lucky because I got poisoned right at the entrance to the terrarium dome, and there's a blue herb literally outside, so I was quite fortunate.
Historically looking back, and certainly this playthrough only highlights it all the more, with like having the GOG releases very recently of like 1, 2, and 3, the relatively grounded Outbreak File 1, which we obviously played through at the beginning of the year. There is just something utterly nonsensical about gigantic zoo animals. I think is this possibly one of the first times I remember thinking back in day that this is a bit much, isn't it? Fucking zombie.
I don't know. I felt it was. I reserve that for flashback myself, but I don't know. I think that all the animals were correct. They follow the usual patterns.
Yeah.
T-virus mammals don't grow particularly big. They just become bloodthirsty. Insects get bigger. Reptiles tend to stay the same sort of size. There is consistency amongst the T-virus infectees of Raccoon City. I'd just like to have seen more. It is a short scenario. Even on normal, it's not huge. But then it is scenario 1. So I suppose in that sense, it does act as quite a nice little introduction to what you are going to experience in the rest of File 2. We've got a little bit of a stalker enemy. We've got a bit of annoying poison. Carry on.
It's interesting because it seems like it was kind of their showcase scenario too in some respects.
It's certainly from a marketing promo, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I can get it because I think in the idea it's like, oh, a scenario that takes place in a zoo with zombified animals. That sounds interesting. Like it's an interesting concept.
Yeah,
definitely unique. But yeah,
I'm glad it was in a sort of spin-off side game than a main title.
And just as a brief aside, AVP Ryu on the Discord did actually let us know today that the idea of exploring Raccoon Zoo was explored in the RE2 comic Mutant Menagerie, which was by Wildstow Comics 7 years before Outbreak File 2 came out. So
I saw that and I had a quick read of that comic. William Birkin infects the zoo, basically.
All right.
And there's a zoo employee, weirdly called Patrick, but it's not the same Patrick as the one actually in Outbreak File 2, but what I didn't know was, I've never read it, mind you, but basically the zoo gets infected. One zoo employee, this Patrick, saves the day, blows the zoo up, kills everything, and he ends up joining a new Stars team, and it's the infamous Stars Charlie team.
Ah.
So he's like a recurring character, this fella. So I have to read a bit more about him. He's a bit of a hero. Goes on to fight the X virus or whatever it is in that Stars Charlie comic.
Yeah, the fire and ice.
Come on, Nick. Where's non-cabin corner?
I know. Well, yeah, ears have picked up. Absolutely. I mean, I remember seeing Raccoon Zoo in the RE3 map that I got in the in one of the strategy guides, and I was thinking, I want to go there, and never did. Obviously in RE3, so I thought that was nice consistency that they did do the zoo, and it wasn't just something we quickly thought, oh yeah, we've already got a zoo. There's a university, that kind of thing. So it works quite well.
I don't know. Maybe your mileage varies on whether you're sort of fascinated by the concept of seeing these mutated animals and whatnot. But this is probably one of the 10, probably one of my least favourites, in all honesty.
The environment hints the zoo's actually quite a bit bigger than what we see. There's a lot of extra penned off areas that we can't get to.
Even that there seems to be a map early on, like visually on. There's a low poly map, but it does look a lot larger than the area that you actually explore. So,
did anyone take the rifle into the final boss? Because it is actually extremely powerful.
Yes, I did, and I'm wondering if that's why I found the boss so ridiculously easy. The only ammo I could find for it, though, was when you shut the gates in the elephant stage and the body falls off the gate. That was the only ammo I could find for it.
Then there might be more ammo if you put the raccoon.
Well, that's what. Yeah, I got some. I didn't even need it.
Yeah, I couldn't be asked to find 5 more.
Well, that finishes Wild Things. So we now decide we don't want to go in the zoo. We want to go to the underground and see what's going on down there. So welcome to Underbelly. So, like before, we'll start with a quick timeline chat. I think Underbelly is one of the hardest to place. If I'm recalling the forum days when Outbreak was hitting the waves, trying to work out when Underbelly was, and all the forum chats about it. There's not many clues. The opening FMV starts with you essentially just running through the street down into the underground. Visual clues there. There's a lot of zombies at that point. And a lot of them look quite old. The city looks very burnt and very hell on earth as well. But apart from that, I'm trying to think.
Suicided officer.
Yeah, I had to dig out my old notes that I made years ago because I couldn't remember myself what the clues were. But in the again, this is another quirk of the different difficulty levels. If you play the harder difficulties, at one of the subway entrances is the body of a police officer called Gene, and he has a little file on him, like a suicide note, and he gives you a code for his office desk, which you can then use when you play Desperate Times. So I think we've got Desperate Times locked in for September 27th, so Outbreak has to happen before then. Other than that, there's not really any...
Underbelly, yeah.
Underbelly, yeah. Underbelly, there's not really any obvious clues beyond that, so it has to happen before September 27th, and I think I've always had it down as September 25th. Like you say, there's a lot of zombies around. The trains are still running.
Yep.
So, there's indications it's still fairly early on in the outbreak.
So in terms of characters for Underbelly, did you go for the same combinations?
Yeah, I took Jim with me, purely because I know he starts with the employee key.
Oh, I should have done that. He actually starts with it, does it? Oh, that would have been handy.
Yeah, because he works there, doesn't he? And I think he can get... there's a few files exclusive to him in this scenario as well. But Underbelly is the one I played the least, so I couldn't remember anything about it. I just knew you had to get into the employee area, and I could remember he started with the key, and I didn't want to waste the first 30% of my virus gorge looking for that bloody key.
Oh no, I should have done
Andy gets to use the vents as well.
Yes, yeah.
Oh dear, I've done this all wrong then. oh, honestly, my tale of Underbelly, it's a tale of woe. It's one of the most annoying scenarios going.
I would concede. I concur with that. Actually,
But I actually, it started off quite well. I was quite happy with my progress. I picked Yoko. As you would imagine, I need that space. Sean, what about you?
I chose Alyssa, obviously, but this time I took David and Cindy with us.
David and Cindy, yeah.
Cindy, because she has the bandage in file 2, she has a secondary item for the bandage, and if she, it was actually moot taking her because she's an AI and they don't do this. But given bleed is a factor when you're fighting against the fleas, if she does the animation where it's an online thing, as I say, if you grab someone as Cindy and help them in bleed status, if she's got the bandage in her inventory, they will be auto healed from the bleed.
Oh.
So that's why she's worth taking. But again, it's kind of moot and silly offline because the AI doesn't do it. She won't do it. It's frustrating. And David, I chose because theoretically you can combine all the cool items and stuff you get. And Underbelly has a plethora of combinable items to make his special weapons, like his cattle prods and his sledgehammers and stuff. But of course, the AI doesn't do that.
No.
There's also another neat skip if you play as David, because his duct tape
Yes.
that he has in his inventory means you don't have to look for it later.
Yes.
Guys, so I played as David on easy, and yeah, used the duct tape. So
you start. I think John's already kind of mentioned. You basically start at the top of the subway entrance, and you kind of work your way down. Very similar feeling actually to Resident Evil 3 remake. I thought there's a lot of good consistency between the two areas.
Yeah, I thought Remake 3 did a nice homage to Underbelly with that.
Absolutely, really. Yeah. It won't be the first time we talk about Resident Evil 3 in Underbelly, at least some version of it. You go down, and quite honestly, the greatest addition to the Resident Evil canon, we see toilets, ladies and gentlemen. A very rare sight in Raccoon City. But not only do we get one set of toilets, there's at least 2 sets of toilets in this game.
Oh, there's several.
Several, yes.
I was going to say there's probably more toilets in this one scenario than there've been in any Resident Evil game prior.
And they're quite useful. Not only can you, have a quick wee, you can also there's lots of items in these, and so they're well worth a little exploration.
Weirdly, I got one of the quirks. I'm assuming it's a quirk because I don't remember this happening. But when I went in several of the bathrooms, randomly the toilets flushed.
Yes, no, I got that too.
Yeah. I thought, is that happen all the time, or is that one of the rare random occurrences that happen in these scenarios?
No, I know you're right. I got that, and it kind of took me. It felt like Silent Hill to a sudden extent. This kind of ghostly apparition has flushed the toilet just as you've walked in. I'm glad I wasn't the only one.
Yeah, it happened to me twice on the same playthrough.
I got a scream as well, I think, somewhere.
Yeah, you get a scream in Jay's bar, and you get something in the morgue in Desperate Times because one of the collectibles tells you that the building's allegedly haunted.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
What,
ever.
in the RPD?
Or Underbelly. I don't even think I knew they were a thing.
Yeah, I certainly never experienced it until today, and it happened twice, and I thought, well, maybe it does, but...
That is absolutely amazing.
Because if you think about it, there's nobody alive in there to use the toilet.
No.
It's just random toilet flushes, it's odd.
Well, I was half expecting a zombie to come out, and I thought it was a very polite zombie to flush the toilet, but no, nothing did. There's not a lot to do at the beginning part, is there? As you said, if you haven't got the employee key, you've got to explore the area. There's a lot of respawning zombies. They're not particularly difficult because it's quite a nice open area. But you can go down to the platform and say hello to the train, and that's where you kind of see your goal, if you like. You kind of work out, well, this is where I need to go out, and in between the train, there is the kind of emblem slots plaque, and I mean, it's not. I mean, it gets its own camera angle, but it's not abundantly clear. That's where you've got to go. But I think you're supposed to kind of put it together. Go train. That's got to be my way out of here.
Yeah, with a nonsensical mask system thing.
Yeah, exactly. But we're in Resident Evil, and of course the masks are of the founders, which has been I'm sure it's been a quiz question a few times, but
Is that a quiz spoiler?
It's not a spoiler. No, I did not, because we've had it before. It would have been, but it's old. Was it Werner and
Oral and Werner?
Yeah, it's the Kite Bros. So at this point in time, when you're on the platform. It's just zombies, no fleas, which I'm sure we'll come to at some point. So you can actually have a relatively good exploration of the platform, free of.
I did explore it, Nick. And
Did
then I
you?
explored it again, and then again, and again, and again, because for some reason my memory completely failed me here. I got the employee key quite early on, and then I was thinking, where's this fucking door? Because every time I went up the stairs and tried the door at the top of the stairs, it said tower above it. So I'm thinking, well, that must mean I need a tower key.
Mm.
So I just kept running round and round and round, up and down the stairs. I was probably about half an hour looking
Really?
for the key I had in my fucking inventory, because in Resident Evil, as everyone will know, there's certain times where if you have a compatible key in your inventory, all you have to do is just go up to a door and use it, and it will automatically use the key. But for the employee key, you've got to go into your inventory and select use. And I just was like, so often I very rarely do a gaff that bad.
Where is the key? Because I got down to the platform and Kevin had it.
It's in one of the toilets, isn't it?
It's on normal mode. It's on the train. You have to actually physically get on the train.
Oh, okay. So right, yeah, fine.
There's an assault rifle in there as well, but you're best off leaving that for
later.
boss. And I'm surprised it was still there. None of my fucking NPCs nicked it.
No.
It was still there.
David grabbed it straight away and used the ammo almost instantly on zombies.
Oh, there you go. I didn't know it was on the car, so there you go. So far, I was quite happy. I came down here. I said hello to Kevin, and he gave me the key, and I thought this is going well. No fleas either. So you go back up into the employee area. I like this area. I'm not sure what everyone else thought. It is a little bit difficult to navigate at times, and you've got to get your geography right. And you again, it's classic RE. I had to use the map a lot to kind of navigate my way around, try and work out exactly where I needed to go and what direction. And it comes in extremely helpful later when you want to try and bolt through this area because it's overtaken with fleas. So you find yourself doing what all good RE games do. You kind of planning your route and trying to plan your timings to get to the doors as quickly as possible. What's the best way of going? How can I do it? Especially because you can go left or right. You go the west or east. It doesn't necessarily matter. So you're trying to think which way should I go, which way I should go. So I enjoyed that, but I didn't mind the area. I said graphically, I found this part of the game really quite impressive. I know it was a little bit bland, but even on upscaled TV that I was on, it was very good.
As a scenario, they spoil us because we're now in this. Once you're in the employment area, you're on your third set of toilets in the RE game.
We are.
So,
one of them's even a save room, isn't it, with a typewriter?
There's an event that happened for me, which I'll just get out of the way quickly now, which means, as a result, because I didn't record this, and I just wish I had, because I would have uploaded it after this podcast has launched so people could see it. So I'm going to be recording the next 3 scenarios on the off chance something humorous happens like this. But I was in the locker room where you can find Jim's locker. If obviously you're playing as Jim, then you can get into it. So with Alyssa, I thought I'll try and lockpick a couple of the lockers. And as I was going through the lockpicks, I was a bit unsuccessful. I needed to use all 4 in this particular instance to get this locker open. But a zombie had come through, had burst through. And bearing in mind I had David and Cindy with me, bearing in mind they both had weapons simultaneously, and I cannot stress how utterly synchronized they were, opened a locker on either side of me and hid whilst the zombie was in the room. The zombie mullered me while I was trying to lockpick the locker, so I ended up having to dispatch it. And then the moment the zombie disappeared, like he did the fade out animation, Cindy and David emerged in perfect unison from the lockers. I just thought I was utterly fucking betrayed by the AI there.
Nope.
They just left me to die, and I just wish I clipped it because it would have been a good thing to see. But yeah, don't rely on the AI in this game, guys.
No.
Play online.
The mechanics of Outbreak really is a bastard in this scenario.
Well, I struggled with Circle as Run, and that alone throws me off.
Why are they different between the 2 games? Honestly.
Well, I was going mad. I was like, I don't remember having this problem in File 1.
No,
and I was like, and I couldn't be bothered to load it up. And I was like, is Square Run in?
Yeah, it is.
And it is. And I was flicking through the settings going, why can't I flick between run, square and circle? And that, I don't like that. I don't know why they would do that when square is run, always has been, and it should always be.
But didn't they do the same in the remake and Zero remasters?
Yes. Another annoyance, to a point where I have to go into the accessibility options within the PlayStation to switch it so that I can just play Resident Evil as it should be played, with square as run. I don't think you can do that on PS2.
we just needed that unified GameCube controller, didn't I?
We really did.
Where it was all unified across those 5 games.
Sean, can I just test your fandom? Did you get... Were you Alyssa in this, yes?
Yeah.
Did you get her extremely important canonical item, which is the anti-fart patch?
I did not.
Oh.
What?
Yes, it's a special. I always remember this for some reason. It's the sort of quirky special items you can get. Well, if you play as Alyssa and you pick up the lighter from the stairs going down to the 2nd level,
okay,
you have to use it to illuminate like little messages on the walls,
a bit
like you do in the
Outbreak.
first Outbreak. And if you do that in one of the women's bathrooms, there is an anti-fart patch you can collect and stick on your stomach. There you go.
Incredible. It's just, this truly is a game that keeps on giving.
Well, I think there's lots that people don't know on Outbreak. There's so many hidden things.
You tend to get to know them if you're trying to 100% it, because you need to often trigger all the SP items or the special events that you talked about earlier, like the flushing toilet will be one of them that you need.
So firstly, there's an optional puzzle in the control room. Did anyone do it?
Is that to open the safe? Or the drawer or something? No, I didn't do that.
No, I didn't.
No, I didn't.
No, that's fine. Rob?
No.
Right on cue, actually. We then head to... I did. I don't know about everyone else. But I head towards the locker room where Sean had his fateful encounter with a zombie. There are lots of zombies in this area. I noticed there's a lot of banging on the door ones. I found a lot more in this than any other scenario I've played since. And it sometimes are right after each other. One bursts in, kill it, and then another one is banging on the door straight away.
Yeah, zombies are very dangerous in this scenario.
I thought so. But you're in that room. The passcode is desk, I think.
Or wine.
Was it wine? Is it okay?
Or cards. It changes. Or deck, sorry. The file changes. I think there's 4 different combinations.
Yeah.
Was it deck, was it? Okay, I thought it was desk.
It was deck for me, yeah.
It can be desk, it can be wine. Deck, yeah.
I had desk, and then you take the B2 floor key, which is near the locker room, and you descend into the stairwell, and suddenly you're back in Resident Evil 3 Umbrella Chronicles. And I was like, oh, hello, I recognise this. Of course, it's not really Resident Evil 3, but it's the only part of Raccoon's destruction that I remember, this stairwell going down.
Hang on. Are you sure about that?
Yes.
I thought it was just at end of the road. That's in
I thought
Umbrella Chronicles.
I'm nearly 100% convinced this part of it is in it. That stairwell, that big stairwell going all the way down.
The second chapter of the Fall of Raccoon City RE3 interpretation in Umbrella Chronicles is Underbelly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
It's the subway area, and then you in the tunnel where it's partially flooded. In Underbelly is where you fight the plethora of hunters as a sort of makeshift boss fight at the end of that chapter.
Please accept my apologies, Nick.
No, that's fine. No, honestly, I've only played that scenario once. It was horrific.
Once more than me, clearly.
Yeah, that's the only thing I remember. I remember Jill going down here. Again, so far, I was doing okay. I thought I was doing all right. But mistake 1 was about to happen when I was in the basement. The basement area. I had no recollection of this area at all. So I kind of like to, when I play the games, I like to explore the entire area, see what's going on, and then pick a room and go into and kind of go into the room. And I made the comical error of going into what I now know to be known as the refuge dump, which was borderline a death sentence. I don't know if it's supposed to be like that. It was absolutely pitch black, and there was at least 2, maybe 3 fleas in there. It's the first time I come across the fleas in that particular room, and boy, did I get it in the neck. I couldn't see where I was going. I didn't really get far. I just kind of moved forward, and suddenly they pounced on me, and they're clinging on, and then I'm trying to spin them off, and then you can just get in such a stun lock and the loop with these bloody creatures. And I was like, there better be something in it. And there's absolutely nothing of note in this room as well. Well, there's Magnum revolver rounds, I think. But, it was so bloody annoying. And it wiped out nearly all my health. And most importantly, the virus gauge just shot up for nothing, for absolutely nothing. And you don't even need to go in there. And I felt really bad. And I should have restarted it after that.
Nick,
Yeah.
I had the same experience.
Did you? Oh, I'm pleased. Not
I
really.
went into the refuge dump, thinking for some reason, I honestly couldn't remember, I thought the duct tape was in there.
Right.
So I knew I needed to pick it up at some point. I got poisoned almost instantly, and then could not find a blue herb for about half an hour.
It's a death room.
I hemorrhaged so much health just trying to, I was trying to sort of prolong it as much as I could, but then when the health bar in the middle of the inventory screen was looking more on the red side, then I'd use a full heal, and I think I ended up getting through something like 3 or 4 full heals before I finally found a blue herb.
Yeah,
just awful.
It is.
Like you say, no matter how agile you try and be, they just seem to just home in on you, don't they?
Yeah, and it's not like, because you can get the blood packs, can't you? It's a bit similar to what you get in Hive. They're not as good. They don't seem to, for me, I never found them to be as effective, especially on the big ones. They just ignored them. I was putting them down, and they're like, no, I like you, mate. And just jumping on, whereas at least Leechman would actively go for them, I always found. But I don't know, I was so disheartened after at this point, I was having, I don't want to say a flawless round, but I was doing well, and this is maybe one of the sole reasons why it all went wrong after this. Just that one move into that area, and I was not happy with it. I'm glad you experienced it. I'm not glad you experienced it, but you know what I mean.
You know how you remember sort of quirky little inexplicable details throughout the series? Well, this was one of those times for me. I saw that door, and just something about me told me not to go in it, so I avoided it.
Like an old muscle memory kicking in.
Yeah, you know how you can just remember certain puzzle codes off by heart? It was just sort of one of those things.
Oh, it killed me. Rob, what about you? Did you avoid it?
No, I avoided it. Thankfully, now hearing this.
One mistake I did make, though, a little bit further on, is when you get the valve handle, I made the mistake of turning the power on at the same time, which meant I got electrocuted when I went into the
same.
Yeah, I did that too. As you're walking through the water, every front, and then of course you get attacked if something's nearby.
Yeah.
So I avoided that. That was my perhaps redemption then. Because that's where you're headed. You're not that much farther ahead there, John. Just heading to the emergency power room to grab. It's always nice to see the valve handle, isn't it? It's a classic Resident Evil item that's long overdue a return, I would say. And this is, as you said, Sean, as well. This is where David is useful because he can fix the. Again, I don't think it's that obvious.
No, it's not that obvious because you obviously you do the initial puzzle,
and you think you've done it,
and then you grab the what do you grab from the hallway? The first of the Kite Bros emblems, isn't it?
The yeah. And
then you obviously go and do that, and then it's only when the train crashes do you then need to reroute the water, and you can only do that with duct tape.
Yeah,
but that's not there's not obvious. And if you don't know what you're doing, then you'll be running around, I think, indefinitely.
Yeah, there's a file that gives you a hint in the I can't remember the name of the room now, but you have to activate the power in the basement, and then when you go back up to the employee area, you've got to do a little puzzle that activates everything. There's a file in there that tells you that the sprinklers won't work unless you fix the cracked pipe.
Yeah, you got to go to the breaker room, I think it's called.
Yeah,
and then you've got to do that a bit of maths.
That's
maths
right.
puzzle. Yeah,
that's right.
All the numbers have to add up to was it 9? 10, yeah. Bit like the old RE1 DS puzzle, exclusive DS puzzle, which
I think on easy mode though on Underbelly you only have to do 2 swaps to complete this puzzle. It's painfully easy.
It is, but it's good. I like this type of puzzle where it's visually I can see what's going on, which is why I've never had a problem with the fabled water puzzle from RE3. I've always found that quite simple. Just because the answer's at the top, and you just got to kind of copy it. So these type of visual ones I can do. We've had some awful puzzles in the past that I can't do, but this one I was like, okay, it's got the nice connectors. You go, okay, you can work out That's got to be a 4. That one's got to be, where it's all going. I like this one. You get that, don't you? That unlocks you're in the break room. You do that. That unlocks the room to the storage room. Unlocks the door to the storage room where you can then grab the repair tape. A little bit of backtracking, not too bad. Apart from respawning zombies at the moment, it's not too difficult. And again, I was, apart from my mistake, I was feeling quite happy. Got the duct tape, went back down, sorted that out, and then picked up old Werner to head back. That's when I picked it up, and then head back to the platform. And then you're introduced to the most annoying things in the world ever. The megabytes were absolutely ginormous, and oh dear. There was 2 types of megabytes, and you get bigger if they suck on your blood. And then you get with the zombies on the platform, because they don't climb down, you can have a little bit of fun with them because they're kind of like just trying to claw at you, but you're down there. The fleas just jump all over the place, and it can be really difficult. I find it difficult to aim, but Sean, you're going to say no. Just use the L1 button.
Yeah,
Might help.
If you're not aware of how useful that is, then that's fair enough because the game doesn't actually tell you this much. But yeah, bear it in mind for the next 3 because it is lifesaver.
I'm gonna have to, but yeah, I generally in that when I was in that area, I tried not to take down the fleas because I think the stun locking it's just brutal. It's not fair. A lot of the time you can get they jump on you, they just don't let go, and then sometimes you're poisoned and you're praying that you're not, and then you're bleeding, and then they all come after you and like, oh my god. But yeah, you get the FMV, and then the train crashes, doesn't it? So you can go and get the second emblem, but I didn't realize this. So this was another mistake I made. So I didn't realize the other train had the emblem on it, or at least where the crash was. So I thought I was done at this point. I was very confident with myself. I thought, oh, this is good. I then went to fight Gigabyte, and I went up to the East Tunnel, and I was just waiting for him to turn up, and he never turned up.
No.
No. And I was like, hello? And I was preparing for myself. I should have
what was that again, Nick? What was that?
Hello. And my big mistake was not saving. I should have gone and saved the wrecking game at this point. So I was waiting there, and it's a good place to stock up, and I was like, oh, very good. And then I thought if I just moved to there's kind of like a nesty area, isn't there, towards the back of the East Tunnel, and I thought, oh, I'm going to trigger it, and he just never came, and I thought, I don't know what I've done wrong. I did have to quickly Google what I needed to do at this point, and I thought, why isn't it? And then, of course, the bloody other emblem. So once I went back into the platform area, grabbed the other emblem, and then of course you put that in, and that did then trigger the Gigabyte fight. But there we go. So at this point, has anything else happened to anyone else, or are we all at the same point now? The Gigabytes.
No, I mean I like you. I was a bit curious if the Gigabyte was still there first.
Oh, you did? Okay, yeah, but mine was a mistake. Yours was.
I couldn't actually remember the sequence of events because Underbelly is amongst one of my probably least played scenarios because it's really well put together and it's a classic Resident Evil experience, but I just find it all just a bit visually uninteresting. And I like I say, I find the megabytes the fleas frustrating and not a massively enjoyable experience. So I don't replay this one a lot. So my sequence of events was a bit murky in my head. I had remembered at some point like a character gets abducted.
Yeah,
I couldn't remember when that happened, and then obviously it's when you release the train, and then you have to go and do battle with it. But yeah, I mean, it was once I'd sort of cracked the employment key, the rest of the scenario felt pretty well, apart from the poison issue I'd mentioned. Other than that, quite uneventful. I was very wary though that this time because if people have read our series playthrough from 2013, will know it was 13.
Was it?
Yeah. I majorly botched the Underbelly run on that one and ended up scraping by the silo tower with something like 99.7 on my virus gauge.
Well, Sean, without preempting the next part of this
Oh
discussion.
God. So, well, just before you get to that, then I'll just finish by saying that I really wanted to make sure I caught the train this time, and so spoilers, but I did.
How was everyone's Gigabyte fight? I went in shotgun and Magnum, which I had acquired. I found Gigabyte himself a piece of piss. The megas were the more annoying ones. These kind of rolling. I mean, what the hell is this? It's like something from Indiana Jones. And when I put oral into the thing, I don't know if it's the case. Is it always you that's captured?
No, an NPC did for me, and then I had to go and run and get them.
Oh, so I was captured in this.
Oh, that's really cool.
It was me, and I thought, oh crumbs, like that. So I was dragged into the boss fight, and I was all by myself. And I thought, well, is anyone coming? And then a bit like Del Boy and Rodney from Only Fools and Horses, you saw Kevin and Mark running through the smoke. Running towards me. I was like, they're coming to save me to help me in the final battle. And I was really worried. I was like, I can't do this on my own, boys. And then they come in through the glitch.
Incredible. And I'll tell you what, that's why the Outbreak games are amazing, because everybody, I swear to you, everybody has their own unique experiences playing these games with little heroic moments like that. That'll be a core memory you've just unlocked there, Nick.
Oh, it will. It was quite cool. And together we battled Gigabyte. As I said, Gigabyte himself wasn't particularly difficult. Just the megabytes kept knocking us over for 10-pin bowling. What about you, John? How did you get on with Giga?
Yeah, I scraped through it, but I made a fatal mistake just before the boss fight, because when I put the first emblem in place, I thought, right, where's the second one? Because I've been everywhere. And I made the fatal mistake of going back to the employee lounge thinking I'd missed it somewhere. And obviously that area is infested with megabytes. And I think at one, I got poisoned so many times in there, because the time delay of when the train crashes is a bit naughty, really, because it lets you run around for a few minutes before it actually happens. But when I did get to the boss, I went in with, I think I had the assault rifle, a spare magazine, and the shotgun. And there's an additional shotgun right in front of the
yes, there is,
Gigabyte as well. I got fortunate, really. I just survived that battle by the skin of my teeth. I was poisoned, I was on danger, I was limping, I was bleeding. And that's why I missed the train, because I was walking around trying to find a herb. It was partially my own fault, because I thought there was a countdown to the train, because obviously the warning was sounding, but because there was no countdown, I thought I had a bit of time, but I didn't make it, and the train buggered off without me. So I knew where the door was for the emissions tower, right at the other end of the level. So I made my way all the way through it, thinking it automatically unlocked when you missed the train. And lo and behold, I got there and it says doors locked, and I was like, oh, fucking hell, where's the key?
Oh, John, mate, you are describing my playthrough of agony and pain.
Yeah, so I wasted a hell of a long time, because I had quite a lot of guns and ammo at that point, but I wasted a lot of it just searching for this bastard key. And it was only by pure chance I ended up back on the train platform, and there was a green herb on the other side that I could see. And it was only when I went across to get it, something glinted in front of me, and it happened to be the key.
So is that key always there then?
Well, and it respawns as well. You can pick it. You can pick it up, and it's still there.
Yeah,
it's really weird. No, we'll come to Rob in a sec. No, same. So after I killed Giga, I was on that low on health, and I didn't have anything on me. But I was okay. I was walking. I was on caution or something like that. And then the timer started. So I think like Kevin or something had something off him. So I walked up to him, started doing a bit of exchanging, not worrying about the train, thinking, oh, it's only the next room, won't take me long. And I was like, I'll pick that up. And again, it's the 50 hertz, 60 hertz thing. Again, I was punished by Yoko being far too slow. And I caught back. I was running. I wasn't in a rush, but you're running. And then I climbed up onto the platform, and I must have been about 10 steps away. And I was about to get on, and then the FMV started, and I thought, yeah, done. And I kind of went off, put the controller down. I was like, excellent, assuming that because you made it to the platform, that's what triggered it. And I was like, oh, excellent. And waiting for all the music to start, and suddenly the game started up again. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? And then suddenly I had the megabytes just suddenly leaping at me. And why am I still playing? Why am I still playing? And I realised I missed the bloody train. I missed it by, I don't know, 20 steps to get into the actual train. And I was horrified. And again, getting absolutely packed on by the megabytes. I was not a happy bunny at this point.
It's worth saying if listeners aren't aware that if you miss the train, you have basically an additional like half of the scenario to now do.
Yeah,
which is basically climbing. It's called just like the silo tower, isn't it?
Yeah, ventilation tower.
Ventilation tower, and don't just think this is just like a tiny optional area at the end of the game, at the end of the scenario. This is actually a massive new area that you have to traverse. It's full of enemies. By this point, you're sort of depleted. Your virus gauge is probably getting quite high. So this is a hugely tense moment. If you've got to now embark at the end of the scenario, now that the boss is dead, you've probably got another 15, 20 minutes now. It's like a mini scenario within itself. So what these guys are describing is similar to the experience that I had in the 2013 playthrough. Was this section that these two are going to describe now is pure agony if you're low on health and hurt, and heal, ammo.
Rob, where are you? Are you team me and John or team Sean?
Team Sean. I got into the train. So nice and easy for me. Confidence questionable, but at least I was like, I'll make it a priority.
How long do you get then? I mean, it doesn't.
I think it changes. I think the difficulty mode changes how long you've got, and on top of it, but also just making it a priority. It's probably not long.
Not long.
No.
You can't. You just got to bolt it out there, no matter what.
I mean, you've got enough time that if you get attacked by enemies and you a little bit of combat time or like getting enemies off you and stuff like that, it's still functional. But I don't know exactly what the specific time is. But I wouldn't be surprised if it gets shorter the more difficulty, the higher the difficulties, to kind of force you.
I seem to recall if you're on danger, you barely make it because of the walking speed and things like that. So.
Well, just me and you left, John, and like you, John, I thought, the ventilation bit, well, that's not too bad. I know where the tower room is. I've seen it, and I assume I'm just going to go through there, and then I'm good to go. But yeah, as you said, the employee area is now a hive of and you are now running a little bit low, and handgun ammo is just not going to cut it much now. These fleas take a lot of damage, so I bolted through as quickly as I can, getting a lot of hits back to the room marked tower. Assuming, like you, John, that it would be open because we've done everything, only to find it bloody closed. I'm like, now what have I got? What? And I was furious, so I had to double back on myself, back to the platform, and again, I had to Google it because I just could not afford to explore because I was up to like 85% at this point viral gauge. And I was like, this is getting tight. So I had to Google it, and I was like, it's at the bloody platform. And I was furious. So I had to go back to the platform, find the key, like in the same way you did, and then to that area. I mean, coming back to the room, that final corridor that leads to the tower ventilation door. There's 2 megabytes what were there, and they cornered me, and I was ravishing health. Going through it, and I was crawling on the floor to the door, and it was my best chance because they're jumping over me at this point, and so they'll miss it. But I was literally crawling. I got to it. I had a green herb to get me up, and then I think I used a red and a green mixed, and then it was like, quick door, open the bloody, and you can't. It's not because it's all real time. It adds so much tension, and I'm like, oh my god, make it. Unlocked the door, and I kind of like fell through the door. I was so close, and now I was at 95% at the bottom of the ventilation tower. And I don't know what you were on, John, but I was. If I finish, and then you can tell your tale of woe. So about 95%. And if anyone knows the ventilation, there are 2 ladders, and there's I had a megabyte down the middle. I did anyway. Was it a zombie? No, there's a megabyte running around. Anyway, there's two ladders. You've essentially got 50-50 chance as to which one is the correct one, because one of them is not the right one, and you can't get to the top. At least I couldn't think you did. And the other one helps you get to the top. I picked the wrong one. Climbed up, another megabyte at the top. got some health, admittedly, but at this point, health wasn't necessarily the issue. It was the viral gauge, it was the time, and the amount of stress that it was now doing to poor old Yoko. So I got the wrong ladder, climbed back down, up the right ladder, and then at this point, this was just a race against time, and I was just hoping that I was picking the right ladder, because there's other ladders to choose. I didn't know which one I was getting. I'd picked up at the bottom. Is it like a
toy train?
Toy train, and so I was up with that, and I climbed to the top, got to the ventilation tower 3, 4, and I again, there's a choice of like 3 ladders to pick, and I was like, oh god, and I got the one that I needed, got to the very top, which was 6 towers. I got to the top, and I was at 99% as I was on the top level, and at this point I was not crawling, but doing the very slow walk over to the corner of the 6th floor where you put in the. Well, I didn't get that far. I assume you put in the toy thing. I assume it goes in there. As I walked over to it, I pressed the action button to put it in, and then I just died and went and just collapsed. At that point, I don't know how much left I had.
You were literally at the end.
Fuck off!
You literally had to climb the ladder, and that was it. So now you're done. Oh, you poor bastard.
It was honestly, the tension was unbearable. I look back on it and go, there were so many mistakes. If I hadn't picked the wrong ladder at the beginning, I probably would have done it. If I had picked the bloody key up for the ventilation tower, I would have got it. If I hadn't missed the oral emblem at the beginning, I wouldn't have done it. If I hadn't gone into that bloody refuge thing, I would have done it. And I was so gutted I didn't do it. It was an absolute killer. I was so close. I knew I was close. I could see the moon, I think. I could see the background. And I was like, I'm out. And I was like, no, Yoko. And she just has this kind of, just collapses as it was ticking up. I was so disappointed. So I didn't make it out, chaps.
So where was the toy train at in yours?
Oh, I thought it was.
I had to climb both ladders, because you have to climb one ladder to turn the power on for the elevator, and then climb down that one.
The elevator?
Yeah, I thought that's what I got stuck on. So basically, when I missed the train and I healed myself, I was quite comfortable. I think my virus gauge was about 62%, and I had plenty of ammo. But the megabytes, they don't take a lot of damage. It was like 3 or 4 shotgun shells just to take one down. So by the time I got to the tower, I was low on ammo. And as you say, there's gigabytes in there. There's quite a lot of them in there. And I climbed the ladder on the left, which is the short ladder, and then several other ladders to get to the top. And then I went to the exit, not realising I needed to find a third emblem, essentially, which is the toy train, to unlock the door. So I then had to go all the way back down, and I must have spent 20 minutes trying to figure it out, because I could see where the emblem was. I just couldn't get to it. But on normal mode, obviously you must not have to do this on easy mode.
No.
You have to find a switch to turn the power on for the elevator. So you go up the big ladder on the right to do that. Then you have to come down and go back up the opposite ladder and work your way around to the elevator.
Right.
Ride the elevator down to get the toy train, and then go all the way back up to the top. And by the time I did all that, my virus gauge was 95%, and I had one last scare because I put the toy train in, and as I was climbing the ladder to literally finish the scenario, there was 3 megabytes right behind me, and they kept jumping and knocking me off the ladder.
Oh no, yeah.
And that happened 3 times in a row, and I thought I was down to caution, and my virus gauge was going up, and I had no bullets left, and luckily, the 4th time, they managed to miss me, and I managed to just get out.
Nice one.
But yeah, it was a bit panicky towards the end, because I couldn't remember. I could see where this bloody emblem was, I just couldn't figure out how to get to it. And I thought, I'm not going through all this again,
No, you're quite exhausted at this point.
Yeah.
The emblem, just to answer your question, the emblem in easy mode is on the room outside the ventilation tower.
Right.
So just as you come on the ground floor. So yeah, I can see yours is on the 2nd floor, but yeah. So you pick it up before you get into it,
right?
And you just got to climb to the top. I didn't even know there's an elevator at this point. You just climb the ladders, pick the right ladder, and hope for the best. And it was exhausting. Quite an experience. John, canonically, which one is the more accurate, or does it matter?
How do you mean?
Which one do you think is the official route, the train exit or the ventilation exit?
Oh, I don't think it really matters.
Fine. I just wondered whether Underbelly moves into something else because you're on a train. I didn't know if that went into.
Well, I think if you play decisions, it becomes apparent that the tower is linked to the sort of subway bit in that scenario. For some reason, I had that in my head when I went into this. I was expecting there to be wasps in that last emissions tower.
So did I.
That's why I was collecting the pesticide sprays.
Funnily, you should say that though, because if you play as Jim and you go through some of the ventilation ducts, which of course he's the only character that can do that, you do get. I think you do go to one of the rooms in decisions.
Yes, that would make sense because I knew I had it in my head somewhere. I just couldn't think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can go into like one of the storage rooms.
Wow. So 2 satisfying endings, 1 immensely satisfying ending, getting out with 99.9, and 1 I'm so bloody close to ending it. Well, yeah, I was so annoyed because I would have done it again if I just saved before Gigabyte, and I don't know why I didn't. I have no idea why I didn't even just think about a quick save, because you can save in the train, and I didn't, and I should have done, and I was annoyed at myself. But yeah, overall, I think it's a solid scenario. It's just like you say, Sean, at the beginning of the podcast. It's just some annoying factors that prevent it from being great.
Are we doing a summary in a minute? Because I'll save my final comments for there.
Yeah, no. I think it's actually a perfect time. I think we've covered our particular venture. So, did you want to lead with a summary of Underbelly and these first 2 scenarios generally?
These 2 scenarios, I think, and I didn't really touch upon this until I'd replayed them both this week. They kind of stand apart as being very isolated and almost disconnected. Most Outbreak scenarios are, well, in fact, nearly all of them are bookended with like an opening cutscene with a few NPCs or a character, sort of closed out by said character. So a good example of this is like Monica in the beginning of Below Freezing Point, Al, as we'll get to when we do flashback. They all, Greg in Decisions, and Carter and End of the Road and all this kind of stuff. These 2 scenarios don't really do anything in their intros and outros. Yeah, okay, you're introduced to Titan Oscar in the Wild Things one, although he's only glimpsed. But Underbelly is a strange one because the FMV sequence that you're talking about is made in the same style of FMV art, if you will, that was featured in the original network Biohazard trailer, and indeed Underbelly features in that trailer quite a lot. So it feels like Underbelly feels a little bit like it's a relic of the when the game was in the initial early stages, of which that network Biohazard Resident Evil Online trailer featured a lot of unseen content, and this just feels like it's from that. And like as the scenarios develop through production and whatnot, you get the feeling that they wanted to make just a bit more substantial in terms of like the intros and the outros and whatnot. And Wild Things and Underbelly, I think, feel very separate to indeed the remaining 8, in that there's no real anchor at the beginning that helps the storyline progress. Like Underbelly, you get that, as you say, that chaotic cutscene of running through the streets, the FMV scene, and then you're just straight in. Whereas other scenarios take a bit more time with introducing you to
story,
it. Yeah. Even something as sort of self-contained as Hellfire at least has the firefighters at the beginning and then the firefighter at the end, just to sort of bookend the scenario as such. Whereas these 2 are quite odd in that respect. It was just an interesting observation I noted sort of this time. They do represent, sadly, 2 of probably my least favourite ones. I'm very much looking forward to the rest of this playthrough. But I still had a great time. I think they're still classic Resident Evil experiences. If we think of like the Outbreak games as like a final swan song of like that classic era of camera angles and hunting for keys and doing puzzles and whatnot, then they're still great examples of that era. But I think, they do represent probably 2 of the weaker scenarios for me personally.
Ron B, what about you? Final thoughts?
I mean, inherently, I'm as enamored with this game as ever I was, which is not much at all. I know that's a tough thing to say. It's just one of those things where, I think I was set off on the wrong situation with the PAL version of the original, and then I got a network adapter so I could play it, and I could still not play it. And as you alluded to right at the intro, it came out after Resident Evil 4 did, so my enthusiasm towards it had very much waned by that point. So yeah, I've never been a particular big fan of Outbreak. I get why people like it. I'm just not one of those people. So going through this, it hasn't enabled me to be more enthused about it than I ever was. It feels very much of its time. And yeah, I don't know. There's not much else that I can say that hasn't already been said or will be said, I think.
Batman, what's your final thoughts of these two?
I enjoyed them more than I thought I would. I think Wild Things in particular has a very unique atmosphere as you're playing through it. Underbelly, slightly less so. I find it very bland. It's just a series of concrete corridors, and I find the mechanics really frustrating in Underbelly. There's a lot of items you need, and when you've only got 4 slots, it's very annoying. There's a lot of confined areas, and when you've got the gigabytes running round and you're poisoned and you're trying to limp towards a blue herb and your NPC character gets there before you, and you try and press the action button, and then you end up picking their character up and helping them along. You just frustrating things like that. And obviously the point Sean makes as well is a good one. They do feel quite disconnected when compared to some of the other scenarios, but I enjoyed them. Wild Things in particular, I really enjoyed going round with all the sort of optional things you can do. And Underbelly, I was just quite pleased to get through it without dying, especially going through the ventilation tower, which is the added challenge at the end. I just wish, there was a bit more to it in terms of story, a few more juicy files, a bit more lore. I think there's a couple of Easter eggs in there. I think you can find Ben Bertolucci's subway pass somewhere, but
nice.
Other than that, there's just nothing particularly memorable about them. But I'm looking forward to the next ones. Flashback in particular, I have no idea how to get through that one. And obviously, Desperate Times, I'm really, really looking forward to.
I was more impressed with Underbelly than I thought I was, even though I'm still very critical of it in terms of the mechanic just pissed me off. I like the fact that it gave that tension. It's somewhat artificial, isn't it, because of the viral gauge? I don't think it's necessary in offline mode, but it did create tension for me in that final bit, and I was frustrated I didn't make it. But most of it was down to my mistakes more so than the game's. So I can't be too harsh on it. But I was more impressed than I thought would be with Underbelly. I thought graphically it was quite good, and I remember playing it going, oh, this looks good. It may have been a little bit grey and monotone, but I was quite pleased. Wild Things, the more I play it, the more I get annoyed at what I just think it should be better, but that could be down to the fact that I played it in easy mode, and there's a whole other 25 minutes maybe, probably at my pace, that I didn't play. By just doing in easy mode, so perhaps it's a slight unfair analogy, but I am looking forward to Desperate Times, less so Flashback. I remember that being a bit of a pain. That does therefore finish our first look at Resident Evil Outbreak File 2 with Wild Things and Underbelly. We hope everyone has enjoyed it. We do have time, thankfully, ladies and gentlemen, for another edition of Neptune Biohazard Quiz.
Do you know your G virus from your C virus? And your Jabberwock from your Bandersnatch? Or perhaps the number of bombs that appear on the Made in Heaven vest?
Jesus Christ. What fucking question is that?
I'm getting a big fat zero this week.
Yeah, I'm not going to get any of these.
We've talked about the games straying too far from the origins. This Resident Evil quiz, we're now getting Spice Girls as the correct answer. I mean, it's time to quit.
This is Neptune Biohazard Quiz. Batman. Star Tyrants. George Trevor. Robbie McGregor. Mr. Spencer. Neptune Biohazard Quiz.
Welcome, one and all. We were coming towards the end of this season's Neptune's Biohazard Quiz, which I'm sure you're all delighted to hear. But we do have 5 questions in this quiz, so you can clear your desktops. Let's see how well everyone does with these 5. So, question number 1. In very hard mode, how many of the raccoon medals can you pick up in Wild Things? So just looking for a number there. Question number 2 is true or false? Is it true or is it false? In Underbelly, you fight the Megabyte and the larger Gigabyte flea monster. In the Elimination and Showdown bonus games from Outbreak File 2, you fight an even bigger flea called the Terabyte. Is that true or is that false? Question number 3, away from Outbreak this time. In which file does Alexander Ashford indicate the names of his 2 children? Nice CV question there for you. Question number 4, this is a difficult one. This comes in from Jordan Osiris. Combining the original game with the remake, how many crates does the Nemesis drop in total? So you need to know how many crates does he drop in RE3, and then how many does he drop in Remake 3. And finally, question number 5, back to Outbreak. And actually, ladies and gentlemen, there's going to be some more points available here. In fact, there's going to be 3 bonus points. So, question number 5, you can find a newspaper in Wild Things with an article by Alyssa Ashcroft. For 3 points, can you name 1, what the newspaper is, number 2, what the article is about, and number 3, when is it dated? They're the 5 questions. Join us after this.
Shit! That was supposed to have helped us. Old Jim's one unlucky dude, but even I ain't never felt that betrayed by Lady Luck. I remember thinking that it couldn't get any worse.
So welcome back to Neptune's Biohazard quiz. Let's see how well everyone has done. So question number 1 was in very hard mode. How many raccoon medals can you pick up in Wild Things in total? Batman, did you know?
I don't know. I'm going to guess 12.
12. Stars Tyrant?
I had 12 pop into my head as well.
Did you? Okay. Ron B, what did you have?
I said I had no idea, so I've gone with 15. Just a complete guess.
11.
Oh,
11. It's 11. Very close, but not close enough. So
Okay.
no points there. Question number 2 is a true or false question. In Underbelly, you fight megabytes and gigabytes, but in the Elimination and Showdown bonus games on Outbreak File 2, you fight an even bigger flea called the Terabyte. Is that true or is that false? Romby?
I have no idea. I'm just going to go yes.
Yes, true or yes, false?
Yes, true.
Yes, true.
that was a shooting stars moment, if ever there was one. Was it?
Stars Tyrant, what did you think? True or false for the Terabyte?
It is false.
Batman?
Yeah, I thought it was false.
Correct. It is false. There's no such thing as a terabyte. No, it's points there to Batman and Stars Tyrant. I was trying to trick you. Question number 3 was in what file does Alexander Ashford indicate the names of his 2 children? Stars Tyrant, your favourite game.
Yeah, I'm not very good with file names though, so I've just gone for Alexander's memo.
Alexander's memo. Batman?
I believe it's the Code Veronica report.
Romby?
I couldn't remember. I went with Alexander's diary.
Points to Batman. It is the Code Veronica report.
Of course it would be.
Of course. Disappointed, Sean. I know how much you love.
Stage in my life where I can't play them enough. There's only so much time. Memory fades.
Memory fade, I know. All right, question number 4 was the one from Jordan there. So combining OG Resident Evil 3 and Remake 3, how many crates does the Nemesis drop in total? Rob, did you want to talk us through it?
I can't remember. I think 12.
12. Okay.
Yeah.
Batman?
I haven't got a clue, to be honest. Are you talking just weapon drops, or also
No.
when he drops the...
Just item drops, yeah. How many crates?
I don't know, 14.
14. Stars Tyrant?
It's a pure guess. I've got a feeling I'm almost certain I know there's 7 in the original 3.
Right.
I can't remember more than 3 drops in Remake, so I'm going to go 10, but I know I'm wrong.
Incorrect, Sean. You are bang on, my friend. It is 10 with
Wow.
7 in the original and 3 in the remake. Well done.
Okay, I can talk you through my wording if you want.
Do you know? Can you remember what the drops, what the contents?
I've jotted them down as I've tried to remember them. So the Eagle
Fantastic.
6.0 is 2 drops.
Yep.
The Shotgun's 2 drops. You get 2 first aid boxes, and the final one is an infinite thing that you can combine with any item to give it infinite ammo. And then I wasn't able to write them down, but I'm pretty sure there's 3 weapon upgrades or something in Remake 3.
There's 2 G19 parts and then 1 shells. Wow.
Shells, is it? Okay.
Apparently
I
so.
thought they were all gun upgrades, but
According to Jordan. But well done, sir. Well done. Very good. 10. That makes it interesting going into the fight where it's all to play for in question number 5. So in Wild Things, you can find an article written by Alyssa Ashcroft. So for 3 points, what is the name of the newspaper? What is the article about? And when is it dated? I think Batman's probably got a good stab at this, having written the timeline. Well, actually, not recently at all now, but you never know. Let's start with Stars. Come on, you like Alyssa. Let's start with you.
I do, but the only newspaper I can remember picking up, and it's the only I can't tell you the date or what it's about. The only newspaper I can remember picking up is News Comet, so I'll just have to say that and try and go for 1 point.
Okay? You're not going to have no guesses on dates on what it's about?
August 10th, 1997, News Comet. It's about the zoo taking bribes from Umbrella.
Okay. Romby, what's your stab?
I have no idea. I have zero clue. So I have nothing. I have no idea. I could give you I could just randomly pick a date and I have no idea the title. August 12th, 97, and something to do with embezzling money. I don't know.
Embezzling? Okay. No. Could be right. Batman, what did you put?
I can't remember the name of the newspaper. I don't think it's News Comet. I think that's from Flashback. I think it's I'm going to say Daily Raccoon. I think the date is June 1st, 1998, and it's about a bootlegging scandal about zoo employee or the chairman of the zoo's board of directors taking bribes that pays for the terrarium dome. Something along those lines.
Oh, John, that sounds so convincing. I have to double check, but I am pretty sure the date is the 31st of October, 1996. The article is about...
No, it's not. No, it's not.
It is.
It's bloody not.
I'm looking... Hold on, I haven't finished yet. I'm looking at it, right. 31st October, 1996. It is about a body washing up on the Ames River, and it's from Comet News.
Oh.
Is that from... That's not from Wild Things, is it?
Well, according to Evil Resources, it is a file that is available.
I'm sure that's Flashback File because it's about the chemicals.
No, this is the front gate.
Demand steward's inquiry.
Well, this is front gate. Raccoon City Zoo.
Guys, come on.
On the ground at the end of the electricity pile on the north corner of the area can only be acquired when playing as Alyssa.
It's where, sorry?
On the ground at the end of the electricity pylon in the northeast corner of the area by the front gate.
Of what area? The front gate?
Apparently.
Well, of Wild Things?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
The starting area?
Hold on, I will put it in the chat.
Well, no, I can load the game up just as quick.
But only when playing as Alyssa, apparently.
Only if you're playing as Alyssa in the northeast corner. Okay.
A few moments later.
Thank you, John, for alerting me to the other potential answer that I had, which relates to the Money Scoop newspaper article. And that does confirm this was about the bootlegging disgrace of rare orchid specimens on the 1st of 1998. So it is 2 points there for you, John. Well done. Never seen that little logo.
It's such the devastation you've yet again unleashed doing this quiz, Nick. Even the internet doesn't know how to comprehend it now.
No, it can't. Are you there, John? So there we go. So let's have a look at the final scores. Rob, nil points. Nil points. No points, my friend. What's happened?
Considering 4 out of the 5 of them are about Outbreak, not surprising.
Not surprised. So it's unfortunate for you, my friend. In second place, with a very respectable 3 out of kind of 5, is Stars Tyrant. Well done.
Thank you. I'll take it.
And John coming in, stealing the win, I think would be a generous term. With 4 points, it's Batman. Well done, John.
Thanking you.
Thank you. Join us next time for what I can now reveal will be the season finale of Neptune's Biohazard quiz.
I think you are right. According to the wiki, that file is there on.
It is. Yes. Yeah.
Well,
it's all right. You got the points, John. It's all right. You got the points.
Didn't know that.
2 files.
2 files. You got the point. Next up on the Resident Evil podcast, we're still waiting for that Resident Evil 9 announcement. Any day now, we're sure. But if not, we'll be back with more Outbreak File 2. This will be covering Flashback and Desperate Times. So brace ourselves for an Axeman and some nerve toxins. Great. But as I just mentioned, it'll also be the season finale of Neptune's biohazard quiz. Why is that important? Well, that's going to lead directly into what will become episode 100 of REP, which will be a very exciting edition. Biohazard Stars. That's right, Biohazard Stars 4 is coming soon, and depending on what happens in the season finale, may impact upon what happens in Biohazard Stars 4, so you don't want to miss that. And on that bombshell, it is goodbye for me, Neptune.
Goodbye from me, Batman.
Goodbye from me, Stars Tyrant.
And goodbye for me, Romby.
What's happening?
I have the faintest idea.